So firstly, welcome for our little workshop on anxiety, stress, post-traumatic stress and panic attacks. And the reason I started running these mini-blitz workshops was really because I want to make sure that I can help as many people as I can. I know economically everybody's struggling at the moment, and every business I've spoken to in Dubbo said the same thing. So I thought, if people can't afford to come out and have some one-on-one help, then I'm going to get to them. I'm going to help as many as I can by reaching out and spreading it. And that way you can share it with anybody that might be able to benefit. So the subject of last week's workshop was pain management. And I've been making little manuals up as well so that you'll have something for later. And when I'm uploading them onto YouTube, I'm then putting links back to the manual. And that way, if you've got a copy of the manual, it'll have a link in it for the video. And if you've got a copy of the video, it'll have a link back to the manual as well. And that way you'll have a complete set. So through this last week, I've spent a lot of time doing the manual up for anxiety. And I think the other manual only had, 6 or 8 pages or something. This one's got a 30 something because it's quite extensive. And it was really because there's so many facets of anxiety, and I really wanted to make sure that everybody has a deeper understanding so that we can start to deal with that. So firstly, welcome again, and let me introduce myself. I'm Carol Macrae, and as most of you already know, I'm a clinical and 5-path hypnotherapist. I've been doing that for 19 years. I've been a Reiki master and teacher for 26 years. I'm the chair for Reiki Australia, and I've been doing that now for 1 year. And now, even though I'm supposed to be retiring from the board in October, it looks like I'll be doing another year as well. And so we've got a lot of stuff on. My husband and I, first I was a nurse, then my husband and I ran fitness centres together for 18 months. We sold our Kim's Bodyline Fitness Centre to the RSL Health Club, and we went over and managed their fitness centre together for 18 months. My husband went back to teaching, and I stayed on for another 8 years. I was there for 9.5 years. At the end of that time, I had a lot of injuries, and there was a lot of stuff going on, and I lost my job because I blew the whistle on someone dipping into the till. So that was quite stressful, I can tell you. And then after that, we opened up Chage Health Club, and we had that for 10 years. I had breast cancer at the end of that 10 years the first time. 2 years later, 2.5 years later, when we sold the fitness centre, and I kept filling in classes and helping out, I ended up with bone cancer. And I cured that myself with Reiki, self-hypnosis and meditation. And so how long later, 10 years after that, I ended up with breast cancer coming back again, and I had a double mastectomy and reconstruction. It was like a 10.5-hour operation with 7 surgeons, and they said they've never seen anybody heal as fast as I did. The only painkillers I had was Panadol, even though they cut me from one side to another and moved the stomach fat up and made some new breasts for me. And I said to them, at least I got a flat stomach out of it. So that was pretty good. I'm always looking for the positives. Now, I've got 3 children of my own. Our daughter has had a drug and alcohol problem for 30 years. She does not let me do any work with her. She's pretty good at the moment, but it's just up and down. And we've got 2 boys. One is in Canada, and he's been there for probably 18 years. And our other son's in New York, and he's been there for probably 10 years or more. And they come home when they can, but we see them online a fair bit of the time. We've also raised our 21-year-old grandson, who's now at university doing counselling and social work. And we have helped raise our 14-year-old grandson, and we have him most weekends. And we've got a nearly 7-year-old, Evie will be 7 in July, and we've had her for 3 years as well. So I understand stress, and so I just thought it's a perfect thing to talk about, because nearly every person that comes in here, whether they're coming in for weight loss, quit smoking, any of those other things, there's always an emotional underlying that. There's always some anxiety or some anger or whatever. And so what that means basically is, and I'm just going to see if I can change that view for a minute. Nope, it doesn't look like I can. Oh, yes, I can. You're up there then. And so what that means is that I don't want to get sick again. So I am now making a lot more effort to take better care of myself. And as with everything, I just believe that if we can find what works for us, our duty is to share that and help as many people as we possibly can through the things that we've learned. So on my website, I've also got a healing page, a quit smoking page, a weight loss page, and they're just all free stuff. And a lot of them are sessions that I've recorded for clients. And then I've just put them there together so that they can have access to them anytime they need to. And as I said, I don't care who gets a copy, who shares. The healing page originally started as a cancer support page. And then because I'm mindful of my words, I went back and I went, wait a minute, I don't want to support cancer. This is a healing support page. So we've always got to be mindful of our words because our body is always eavesdropping on our language, our self-talk and our thoughts. And whatever we think about and focus on is what we tend to draw to us. And it is the law of attraction, which most of you have heard of by now. And so it means that we've got to always start focusing on what we want, not what we don't want, because the more we focus on what we don't want, the more the crap hits the fan, as most of you would know. And so when it comes to the subject that we're working on today, I originally just said it was an anxiety workshop, and then I thought there's so many different forms of anxiety. And so some people just say, oh, well, I've got stress, but that's another form of anxiety. Some people say I have panic attacks. That's massive anxiety. Some people say I've got post-traumatic stress disorder, and that is even greater levels of anxiety. And they've all got similar roots, but they do have different ways of expressing themselves, as most of you will know. And so today what I want to do is I'm going to open up my manual on here, and I can find it, and then we can have a little look through this. And what is that doing there? I don't understand. I'll put that right down the bottom. There's the little tag sits in the way. And so with our manual, I thought I would skim through it, because I'm not going to read 30 odd pages because you guys deserve better than that. But this is, as I said, this is your resource. And so our little Mini-Blitz workshop will be covering lots of things today. And probably some of the things, a lot of the stuff in the book is mainstream information, but some of the ways that we deal with things are going to be a little bit left of center. And so our workbook covers things like what is stress and anxiety, what is panic, what's post-traumatic stress disorder, then some simple tools, techniques, and effective ways to manage these emotional states, coping techniques, self-help tools in the face of stress and anxiety. We're going to do some hypnosis to reduce or eliminate these problems. We're going to do a demonstration on one of you lovely ladies, and then we'll have some time for questions and answers. And our intention today is, in a moment, I'm just going to ask you to share your intention, to share what you hope to achieve from our workshop. And I want you to also remember this is a safe place. So what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. That's what I often think. And if anybody shares anything here, it's completely confidential, of course. So as I said, the manual is extensive, so we're only going to sort of skip over the top. Oh, it looks like I've got a ZI, and that Z needs to come off somewhere in that second line. So this is a resource book that you can use for later reference, but we're not going to spend the whole day focusing on reading. We want to get to the nitty-gritty. And so actually, I've just realized this is not actually the copy. This is not the copy, the latest copy that is now up online, but that's okay, because I will see if I can find the other version of this while we're talking. And if I can find the other version, then it will make it a whole lot easier to show you some of the other stuff that I wanted to show you. I think it might be on the actual, might be actually on the, let me just see if this is going to be it. Yes, this is the right one. Now, I'm just going to make sure that this one now comes up because it's now on a different one. And this is not where we're going. We are going to anxiety workbook. And so it starts the same, but I've got some extra things here in what we'll be covering today. And they are also, we're going to do some emotional freedom technique or EFT. What I've also put here is the page number to go to start the techniques, the EFT demo on page 22, the demonstration on page 27. I haven't written anything up for the demo, but that'll be where we will be up to. And so before we get started, I would love it if you guys would just introduce yourselves, and I will stop sharing for a moment as we just have this little chat. And then if we get to know exactly why you're here, it may mean that I'll be able to target some of the stuff that we talk about today to really be able to help you personally. So, Martina, would you like to introduce yourself? You might need to take yourself off the off lock for a moment.
Yep.
Excellent.
Hi, Carol and Alicia.
Hey,
Hi,
where
hi.
are you from?
Central Victoria in Broadford.
Wow. And how did you hear about our workshop?
I'm not exactly sure. I'm a Reiki master, so I'm guessing that was the connection.
Probably through Reiki Australia, because I did end up, because we had a board meeting last Tuesday night. And so I just said, look, I'm doing these workshops. We want to keep adding value for our members. What if I just share them with Reiki Australia as well? And they went, yep, go for it.
And thank you for doing
that. There you go. Excellent. Yeah. So tell us a little about you.
Interesting story, similar to yours, I guess. But different. So I have two children, a wonderful 36-year-old son who was born with multiple heart issues, and that's how I came into Reiki initially. I had lived in Japan in 1984, so had come into contact with Reiki and was like, yes, and then probably fell back into life coming back into Australia. So started doing the trainings when my son was a baby.
Wow. Excellent.
Yeah. And then my daughter was born, and in a very violent, abusive relationship, and ended up with breast cancer as well, left breast, which I healed myself.
Same.
Exactly.
Excellent. You did well. You did very well. Yep.
Yeah. Reiki does amazing things, doesn't it?
It does.
So fast forward, my son is 6'5", fit and healthy, despite 3 open heart surgeries, and he was supposed to be brain damaged and failure to thrive and all the rest of it. But Reiki really supported his health and well-being.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. And then 7 years ago, my daughter, who has multiple health issues, unexpectedly fell pregnant with the most beautiful grandchild. But Hunter was born with the same heart issues that his uncle had. But unfortunately, Hunter's journey was very different. So after 7 operations, he had to be taken off life support. So...
You never get over that. You just never get over that.
Yeah. So that's had, major impact. My daughter, who is type 1 diabetic, just fell apart. She, of course. So she's now basically clinging to life on dialysis, awaiting transplant surgery. So she's 33. And similar to your daughter, Katie has done the Reiki 1 training, but she has a different path she wants to be with her child. So,
Yeah. Oh, that's so hard.
yeah.
Yeah.
So as a result, and it all makes so much sense, I was diagnosed with bone marrow cancer. So, the lifeblood cancer.
Yeah.
But
That's
again,
no joy. That's what that is. Yeah.
yes. So
Yeah.
sorry about the tears.
No, you
Um,
see, that's what I said. We're in a safe place. Now, I know this is going to be sent out to a couple of other people, and
that's,
but I think we're all human.
that's
And I think sometimes when we share our stories, even though we think, oh, I shouldn't have said that, it's going to help one other person to start to look at their own lives differently and realize that you're still standing, and
and yeah, and
and
my
you can still find this joy in your life regardless of all the things
absolutely,
that's going on. And
and
that's the
the
gift you give back to whoever hears your story now.
and through Reiki, my paraproteins, all the numbers, which is not supposed to ever be happening with multiple myeloma, my numbers have practically reset back to zero.
Mm.
So I am going to be part of a study that they want to learn more
That's
about Reiki.
wonderful.
Yeah. So
So
that
you make sure you jump onto my page.
I shall indeed.
There's
So
hypnosis things there for boosting your immune system, all sorts of stuff, I think, anyway. And
lovely.
if there's not, let me know. Yep.
Thank you. Yeah. So Reiki is miraculous. Reiki is love. But really, sorry, getting back to your initial story, really wanting to support my daughter who has she has complex PTSD, and my husband who's an ex-soldier who also has, my new beautiful husband, who also has anxieties and PTSD.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
So look, I really appreciate and honor the fact that you've opened your heart straight away and shared that. That's deep.
Oh,
And so now I know what we've got there. I'll work out some way that because normally that requires more than a session on a video. But we'll work out something that we can do to support your daughter as well, and maybe do some extra work with her at a reduced price or something. We'll work something out so that we can get her through that PTSD and get her back to wanting to be alive.
it's a
Yep.
tricky one. I've been working on it for 7 years, but it's mum, so it's a little, yeah. But
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you. Now, Alicia, I know you don't like normally talking, but we can't see your face. So would you like to just share a little bit about your story? Because I know Alicia really well, and she's got a lot of complex stuff going on at the moment too. So Alicia, when you're ready, just tell us what you're comfortable sharing.
Yeah, well, I suppose like I've had anxiety majority of my whole life, really, and have only just started, I guess, in like a few years ago, like just starting therapy and self-care techniques. I thought, because when I was 18, that's sort of when I think I had my first breakdown. And so basically my healing started when I was 18, because it was very stressful then.
And
And
still
then,
is. She's living in a home with dysfunctional people. So
yeah, and
we do
then,
work and she goes back home again, and then things get
Mm.
shaken up again. So
yeah, and then I also have had, in the last couple of years, I've had two of my dogs I've had to say goodbye to due to health reasons, and that wasn't easy, and like there was guilt and stress with their health, but then being able to see Carol, I've been able to, with the positive self-talk, is that I got to help them pass peacefully. So that's helped with that. As I've went a few years ago, I did Reiki with Carol, and so I've been seeing Carol for hypnotherapy too, and that's helped a lot with home situation and stress, and yeah.
And she's just got a beautiful heart, our Alicia.
Yeah, a big one.
Yes, exactly. And so, as I said, our session here today is to support people beyond where we are now, because you'll be able to play some of this stuff back, Alicia. I know Alicia was in the pain one we did last week, and after the session, she messaged me the next day and said, my back pain's better. So
yeah.
And look, I don't know, Martina, if you've done any online energy stuff, but I've done work with people, somebody in Ireland, and just done this and pull the pain out of a shoulder, and done the same with somebody in Brisbane who had a torn hamstring, and 3 days later went and did a triathlon. And and even though we think, we're not fully present, physically present with a person, we're energetically present. And because we've all done Reiki, we know what that means. We know that we're all connected. And when we understand the higher intention, we understand that on a soul level, we are all one. And what each person presents is mirroring back to us some of the things that we've had to deal with, or we're afraid that are within us that we don't want to deal with. And so it really is about how do we support each other on these journeys. And so you'll be able to play this back. And Martina, you can share this video later on with your daughter and with your husband. And I'm just so grateful you've got a good one now, which is awesome. Because so many of my clients, I've worked with thousands of clients, and so many have had dysfunctional family lives. And for you to have married someone or been in a relationship with someone in the first place like that means that you've had your own trauma in your own early years. And so I'll go back to the manual. I'll go back to the manual in the share page. Where is that now? And outline workbook. And so in the manual, you'll see here, I think, called the secret language of feelings. And let me say that with the hypnosis that I do, it's not just normal, just direct suggestion. That's kind of the scope of what we can really do on a video, because I don't really want to have everybody reacting and going into a really panicky state where I can't be there to monitor you in person. But if we start to understand things, it can just give us some more tools. And so everybody knows really what stress and anxiety are. So I'm not going to read through all of that. But stress, as we know, we'll go through little skim overs over it. Stress can be short-term, it can be long-term. It can be just fight or flight for something that happens, and then our body's meant to recover. And long-term stress means that we keep being triggered over and over again. And so it just means we've got this underlying hypervigilance. And most people with anxiety, particularly a generalized anxiety disorder, end up having that underlying anxious feeling without even realizing it. And they'll just realize, oh, wait a minute, my body's really tense. And that's one of the reasons. But as I started to say to Martina a moment ago, and Alicia already knows this, but for anybody else that doesn't, the first 7 years of our life really do set us up for life. And it means it's happening because in those first 7 years, we're in a state called the imprint period. And that means our brainwave patterns are alpha and theta brainwave patterns. And that means we're in hypnosis. So everything that we see, everything we hear becomes our core belief about life, where we fit in, what we think we deserve, what we think we have to put up with, and what looks like normal, which is one of the reasons Alicia struggled, because she thought normal was dysfunctional. And so many times we've had talks and I've gone, no, your gut feeling was right. It's not normal what you've been going through. And it's because those early years just set us up. This is what a family is. This is what parents' relationship is. And so it means that after the first 7 years, a gateway builds up between the conscious and subconscious. And let me see if I've got the iceberg picture here somewhere. It's a little bit further down. Let me just see if I can find the iceberg. Might be right down the bottom. I should have put it up the top, I think. I wasn't planning to talk so much about hypnosis in this section, but if you look at the iceberg picture, maybe we can blow that up just this little bit more. So the iceberg, I'll have to go back a little now. The top part is 5 to 10%, and that's your conscious, rational, logical mind that tries to analyze everything and work out, if I do this, then maybe my feelings will go away. And the subconscious mind, this has broken it down even further, 50 to 60% unconscious, 30 to 40%. But generally, we say the subconscious is 90 to 95%, because even in hypnosis, we can tap down into the unconscious parts as well. And so when we understand that when we go to normal counseling therapies, we're working with like 5 to 10% of our mind, it makes it easier to understand why we haven't been able to heal things that we've had for many of us for most of our lives. And so in those first 7 years, our baseline is kind of laid down. And after that, we go to the conscious mind starts to get stronger. And between those two parts, there is a water level in the iceberg picture, and that's called the critical faculty. And what that means is if information comes in that agrees with the stuff that's underneath, the gate opens and you say, I knew this was going to happen. This always happens. Nothing ever changes. If information comes in that says, no, you're going to have a wonderful life, you're such an amazing person, the next relationship you go into is going to be absolutely fantastic, the gate goes, yeah, I can't quite trust it. I can't believe it. And this is all to do with our core beliefs about what we're willing to put up with, because quite easily we could go into a good relationship and turn them into a bad person because of our underlying belief system. And so it's just human nature to kind of bounce off each other. And if we, like I had one lady who came in and she said she'd been married 5 times. And I said, oh my God, can't believe that. And she said, yes, every time I went into a new relationship, I thought this guy was going to be 100% different, but it turned out they were exactly the same. And I said, yes, because you trained them like that. And what I explained to her was, if your self-esteem is not so good, then what you'll find is you're in that in love period for the first 18 months to 2 years. And then after that, they might have a little niggle at you. They might put you down. And because that's what you've witnessed through your early years, that your self-esteem is not so good, you kind of negate it or you make excuses. And when you continue to do that, after a while, they start thinking, well, she doesn't think that much of herself, so why should I? And then they might increase that level of abuse or taking you for granted and turning you into a people pleaser or whatever. But because you don't stand up for yourself, you're training them basically that that's okay. So we tend to reproduce these patterns in our life because we might put up with it for a while. And then if that relationship breaks down, we bring someone else into our life. But here's the little secret. When we're looking for love, on a conscious level, we want whatever's warm and snuggly and what makes us feel really good. But on the subconscious level, we are basically looking for what is familiar. And familiar, for a lot of people that have grown up in families that have not been stable, familiar does not look so good. And so without us even understanding, on a subconscious level, we are drawing people into our life that are going to mirror back to us our own fears about what we don't want really. And so it sets us up after the first 7 years to continually have negative emotions. And if we've had abusive parents or whatever, or we've seen them fighting and we've got anxiety in those early years, it then becomes this cycle. So if we have a little look here at this picture, we feel bad and we tend to distract and we go round and round in circles. And this is not just anxiety, but this is every emotion, pretty much every negative emotion. And so it might be one of our distractions could be eating, drinking, taking drugs, smoking, being a workaholic, gambling, shopping, hoarding. All of those things are part of that cycle of trying to distract so we don't have to deal with the emotions. So we go round and round in circles. Nothing changes. That leads to frustration, still distracting. That's what leads to depression. So depression's a tertiary emotion. It's not even a primary one. The primary one is the anxiety or whatever that might be. And for us to clear away depression, we need to deal with the cause. And so when we now look at this, we see we've got bored means we have a need to be challenged for growth experience. Anger means this isn't fair, and so our need is to experience fairness for ourselves and for others. Guilt means that we feel like we've done something wrong, so then our need is to feel like we're treating others better and to be fair to other people. Sadness means something's missing in our lives, and so it's about our need is to keep the things that we value and the people that we value. Loneliness means we've got a healthy desire for human contact, so our need is to get some meaningful relationships. And it's all part of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which we might discuss in one session we might do on depression. And that loneliness, we want to be connected to at least one person, but we also need a herd. We also need to feel connected to a family or a circle of friends. So inadequacy means we don't feel good enough. Stress generally means we're trying to do too much or trying to do it too well, and as an underlying thing. But our purpose is to have success managing our own lives. Fear means I'm scared, I don't feel safe, and that's anxiety as well. Fear and anxiety are pretty much the same thing. Frustration means whatever I'm doing isn't working, I have to try something else. So our need is to meet our needs through our own effort. And depression means I feel helpless, I feel hopeless, so our need is to feel more effective and hopeful. So when we do this kind of work, particularly when I'm working with a client one-on-one, and we can do more than just one session, we can get in. The first session's generally just getting a good case history. The second session, we want to go after those demons. So it's like we've got this seething cauldron of emotion built up from all the years, but it's fed by the flames from the past, the present, and the future. But everything in our past is what sets us up for how we experience our present life. And that affects our expectation about the future. So second session, when I've got a client, is to clear the stuff from the past. And let me tell you, with panic attacks, we can clear that. We can clear that sometimes without that person having to talk. With post-traumatic stress, we really want to get in and dig deep and find out what's in there so that we can get rid of it. And we really want to just pull the triggers out, pull the switches out of the switchboard. And so, although this is only an online workshop, we're going to have a crack at just clearing some of the basic anxiety and helping you to look at your life differently, because if we can't change the circumstances, we've got to change the way we feel about it. And then once we can start to get a handle on this, we want to name the feeling, find out what it is it's telling us to do, and then plan a satisfying response. And so how it works, we get a bad feeling, we distract. That's what I've already just mentioned. And what I've got here is a link to download a feelings indicator, which is basically this stuff, but it's 4 pages if you print it out. That's why I didn't bother to put it in the manual. And it just goes over all the other emotions so that you can have a look at that later. And so here we go. Now we're on stress. But before we go any further, does everybody understand where we're up to? Has anybody got anything they're not 100% sure about? Is it all clear enough? Perfect. And so stress is the body's response to any demand or challenge. So it's the fight-flight system, but it's not just fight or flight. It's flight, freeze, but it's also surrender. Now, people don't understand that, but if you're perhaps if you're in an abusive relationship, you might run away, you might stand up and want to fight if you have to defend yourself. You might just sort of freeze and shrink down and try to be invisible. And for some people, Alicia, that might be going to their room so they don't have to deal with anybody. And the surrender is, I will do anything you want, just leave me alone. Let me be a people pleaser. Let me lick your boots, basically. And for most women in particular, that's how abusive relationships end up, because they're so afraid of that confrontation, they will do anything to avoid it. And so they're all just different levels. But we have, every time we go into stress, we've got adrenaline, cortisol, and noradrenaline. Now, I have just finished, because I'm with the Australian Hypnotherapist Association, and I'm a clinical hypnotherapist. And let me just say, most people in Dubbo that have done hypnosis are not clinical. They've just done basic training, and they don't have all the requirements that you have to have when you're registered. So what that means is I've got to do probably 6 workshops a year to stay registered. And I've just done one on neuroimmunology. And I'm not completely finished with the course yet, but it was really brilliant in understanding the whole stress thing. And knowing that when we talk about stress has an effect on the body, there's scientific evidence to prove that now. And the emotional state really does affect dis-ease in the body. And Martina, I'm going to throw something at you here too. Before I had the first sort of breast cancer, when I was teaching Reiki students, I remember reading a book, Cancer Can Be an Acceptable Form of Suicide. And I think I talked to my students about that. When I first got breast cancer, I had one of my students, a male, ring me up and he said, I remember something you told me. And I said, you bastard, I knew you'd remember. And we had a chuckle about it. And I said, look, life is really difficult at the moment. We've got our 21-year-old grandson was 3 at the time. Our daughter was on all sorts of drugs, and we would be worrying about that little boy every day. And I'd be going to work, and then I'd go, oh, I just got a gut feeling. I've got to go back and check. And I'd go back and call into her flat, and he'd be walking around and she'd be unconscious. So I'd then have to cancel all my clients and pick up that little man and take him home. And every day it was like, what's going to happen today? What's going to happen today? So I was just living on edge. And what I said to my friend who said, oh, I remember what you said, I said is, I don't want to die, but it would be so much easier not to have to deal with this stuff. It'd be so easy not to be here. And Martina, you've got that, because we love our kids, we love our grandkids, but sometimes the stuff gets so hard. And Alicia, you've been where what we're talking about. I know that you've had those same feelings, but you've been able to verbalize those. Back in those days when we had breast cancer, we didn't understand that. We couldn't verbalize, well, made it be easier not to be here. And so I'll find an acceptable form, and that way nobody will think, oh, you're a coward, you went and killed yourself. So I've just thrown something up that not everybody is going to understand, but if you're watching this video later, you probably will understand that, because it means that you too had a fair bit of stress in your life, most likely. And so I remember saying to I told my husband that this fellow had rung me and said he remembered. And my husband said, if your breast cancer comes back again, I'm leaving you. And I said, oh, great, thanks for that. And he said, because that means that you don't want to be here with Coop and I. You don't want to be here to help me raise that little boy. And I said, look, you're just not getting it, because consciously I will fight tooth and nail to be here, but this is not conscious. This is deeper. This is really deep. And I do want to be here for you guys, but that's not going to get me across the line. The only thing that's going to get me across the line is I've got to be here for myself. I've got to find a reason to want to be here and find some joy. And Martina, you get that too, don't you? Yep. And so it really is good to get to a place where you go, I think I'm okay. I think I'm going to keep moving forward. And even though we've got a lot of stuff going on at the moment with our little 3-year-old, we've just, our little almost 7-year-old who we've had for 3 years, we've been changed. We were with DCJ, and then we've been with Anglicare, and they gave us somebody in Orange, and I'm in Dubbo. They gave us an agency in Orange, and we've been with them for probably 8 months or 6 months or something. We've had to redo all the paperwork every time we change, and health checks and police checks and all the rest of it. And now the Orange office is closing, so now we're about to be moved to another office, to Uniting here in Dubbo, and that apparently is going to take 6 months. And then 2 days ago, the caseworker from Anglicare, they had one in, they didn't have enough staff is why they're closing down. So our caseworker is somebody that lives in Liverpool, a 21-year-old guy who has to come to Dubbo and Orange 1 week a month to service all the clients here. And 2 days ago, they said, oh, sorry, Desh has now been taken off. So it's just, there's always these little things, but I kind of sail through them these days. My husband, he gets angry and he gets upset about it. Oh, I'm not filling out their paperwork. And I just go, take a breath, you know, in the scheme of a lifetime, this too shall pass. We get through this, we'll get through everything else. So you need to just calm your farm. And it really is about not letting life's ups and downs cause us to lose our center. And so stress can be triggered by all sorts of stuff. And if that keeps going on, it can turn into post-traumatic stress too. So anxiety, as you know, is that persistent little worry where we can't even sleep at night. Our mind's constantly worrying. And that turns into a generalized anxiety disorder quite often for a lot of people. So that it doesn't take much, and it just sends them off the rails back into a state of worrying where they're not sleeping, and when they're not sleeping, then it just exacerbates the whole problem. Now, panic attacks, sudden episodes of intense fear that trigger physical reactions without any real danger. So that might be after so for example, somebody's been in a train crash, and then the only transport they've got to get to some event is on a train, and they might talk themselves around to saying, no, I'll be fine. But as soon as they get on that, train, they blow out into a panic attack, palpitations and dizziness and all the rest of it. And it's really interesting because I had a friend in Queensland who rang me, and she said, oh, I've been having these terrible panic attacks. I cannot get on a plane. And she said 2 years ago, our boys moved overseas. And last year I had to send my husband by himself because the only way I've been managing it for the last 20 years is I've had to get drunk and take Valium. And she said, I just don't think I can do that anymore. And I said to her, we can do some work on the internet. And she said, no, Greg can drive me down. So he drove her down from Brisbane. And when she sat down and we started talking, I said, what were the thoughts that went through your head the last time you got on a plane? And she said, I said, when they closed the door, what went through your head? And she said, when they closed the door, I thought, I'm trapped, there's no escape. Now, because of her words, I thought, she's been nabbed. Somebody's grabbed her, something's happened to her when she's little. And I asked, has anything ever happened to you? You've been locked in a cupboard or nobody's grabbed you? And she just laughed and said, oh, don't be so bloody stupid. I went, fine, no problem at all. And so I've still kept that underneath my cloak kind of thing, because I know that the conscious mind and subconscious don't always talk. They usually don't talk to each other. So we might think we can work out what a problem, where it's come from, but we've got no idea. The subconscious really is a supercomputer, and it knows what we need to find, and it will help us if we ask the right questions. And so with my friend Maureen, she came, as I said, drove from Brisbane, and we skipped the first session. We went straight to the second session. We went straight into age regression. And I said, bring up that feeling you don't like. Let's go back and find out where it's come from. And we went back to, I am 4, mum and dad have got new twins, and I have to walk to school every day by myself. I'm walking down the lane. Oh no, the neighbour's just grabbed me and pulled me into his house. She sat in the chair and she's going, let me out, let me out. And I said, as I come from 1 to 3, move through this event till it's over and done with. 1, 2, 3, what happened? She goes, he opens the door and I run out and I run home to mum, and mum calls the police. Nothing happened to me. So fears will piggyback. So we might think we've got a fear of flying, nothing to do with flying. It was a fear of being trapped. That's all it was. And And so once we released that, once we understood where it came from, and her subconscious went, "You're safe," it just disappeared. And we like did 2 sessions on that day, but she flew home and her husband had to drive home by himself. So it was that miraculous and that fast, and it usually is. And then not long after that, I had a man who rang me and he said, "Oh, I've got fear of elevators." And I said, "Well, you're lucky there's not many in Dubbo. You'll be fine." And he said, "Yeah, but I just got to transfer to Sydney in a high-rise building and I have to go up an elevator every day." I said, "Well, you better come in." And so when he came in to see me, he sat down, and when we did his age regression, it turned out when he was 4, he got bailed up by a German Shepherd. So again, it had nothing to do with elevators. It was just, there's no escape. I'm trapped. And again, once we cleared that, he was fine. And so you can really actually have a very fast effect when it comes to things like panic attacks that are connected to one incident that happened a long time ago. And generally, again, first 7 years of your life, because you're in a state of hypnosis. And post-traumatic stress is like the next level up. And that's what we see, particularly, Martina, your husband who's been in a war, and your daughter has that. And Alicia's got that as well. And particularly if you keep being re-triggered, it means that you feel like there's never any let up. And it is a mental health condition triggered by experiencing or witnessing traumatic events. Symptoms include flashbacks, nightmares, severe anxiety, uncontrollable thoughts about the event, and avoidance of anything related to the trauma. And so we work on these things quite often with Alicia, but again, she goes home to it again every day. She goes home to a sister who's got borderline personality disorder and who's quite abusive to everybody in the family, and a mum who loves everybody but is a peacemaker, and so there's no real consequences for her sister's bad behavior, let's put it that way. So it means that at least Alicia's getting stronger and learning to deal with things in a whole new way, but we need to continue on that work to just get you, Alicia, back into a place where you just go back to not my circus, not my monkeys, and just let it bounce off like water off a duck's back. So I'm not going to go through all of this. Life changes, stress. There's little things that can cause us to feel stressed. Some things, and it's all subjective, because some people don't seem to get stressed by certain events, and some other people will go through the same thing and they will be on the floor shaking. So our triggers, environmental factors, and that might be noise, pollution, overcrowded living conditions, work environments, open plan offices with high pressure sales floors, interpersonal relationships. So the conflict is a big one, and that's the hugest thing with all the clients that I see as a general understanding. Conflict with partners, with friends, being bullied at school, being bullied at work, all those sort of things. And energetically, if we've been criticized as a child, we are much more likely to then be bullied when we get to school and in our workplace, because we've learned to surrender and not stand up for ourselves. And bullies are really good at picking people that that are not going to give them a hard time, because they know that you're a target because you don't know how to verbalize and how to stand up for yourself. So when we do work on ourselves, our aim is to get strong enough so that we don't care what the other person says. And when we stop giving a crap what they've got to say, generally they stop doing it. And I had another lady who came and saw me who was being bullied at work. And when we did the work, she said, "I don't give a crap anymore." And I went, "Great, you'll be fine now." And about 3 weeks later, she rang me and she said, "Guess what? She's my best friend now." And I said, I love that. But that is often what happens, because if they can't trigger you, then they'll find somebody else to pick on, probably, but then they'll start wanting to get that acceptance from you, which is, it's kind of interesting the way that we work. So anxiety, general factors, family history, and this is the biggest one. And when we do things like age regression, trying to find somebody's anxiety, quite often it'll go back into the womb, which is an interesting thing, because people think oh, I can't remember. You know, I have people say I've got no memory before the age of 10, and we do the first lot of age regression. They go back to, well, I'm 2, and this is what's going on. And I remember the first time somebody went into the womb when I was doing this work, and she said, well, I'm not born yet. And I went, well, how far along are you then, little one? And she said, well, I'm 7. I said, 7 minutes, 7 hours, 7 days, 7 weeks, 7 months, 7 what? And she said, well, I'm 7 months. And I said, so what's going on in there, little one? And she said, Mum and Dad are having an argument, and Dad just said he doesn't want a girl, he wants a boy. So when we came out of hypnosis, she said, oh my God, did I make that up? And I said, look, I don't know. All I know is your subconscious will bring up whatever it thinks is relevant, and it either happened or it brought it up as a way to deal with the fact that you didn't feel good enough because you weren't a boy. Now, luckily, we were able to take it to another time in her life when Dad told her how much he loved us. So that was a good blessing. But she went and spoke to her mother about it, and her mother said, how did you know about that? You were, you know, I was 7 months pregnant with you when we had that huge argument. And how could you know about that? And she said, well, I just know. And I had, not long after, I had a truck driver go back to, I'm 5 months along and Mum's trying to abort me. And so, you know, he went and spoke to his 85-year-old mother, and she just said, he said all she could do was cry, and she'd say, you can't know about that. You can't know about that. But he said, I do know about that. And through this work that I do, I know our consciousness is there from the moment that little spark enters the realm. And quite often people will flip back into a past life as well. And if they go back into a past life, then we want to take them to the end of that life and get some information about what they're coming in for, what their purpose is, and what are the lessons they're going to overcome. Now, this is probably more than I was planning to talk about in our workshop, but let me say it's all interesting. It's all really amazing sort of stuff. And that's why I love the work I do. And even if it's a past life issue, we've still got to deal with it in this life. So I don't generally spend a lot of time exploring somebody's past life, because to me, I want to get them better, and I don't see any purpose really playing in that. If we can get an understanding where it came from, great. And then we can undo it. But we don't need to spend a lot of time in another lifetime. This is where we are right now. And our purpose of having every lifetime is living the human life so that we can come back to knowing our true nature, which is of love and peace and light, and that we are little souls. And so for anxiety, again, it can be job loss, financial stress, academic pressure, relationship problems, family conflicts again, health concerns, which Martina, you've had a few times. Alicia, you've got your own health issues going on as well. And substance use. So when people are using drugs, I can tell you they are not themselves. And when we talk about the demon alcohol, I actually believe that there is an attachment there, which we don't normally talk about in these sort of sessions either. But when people are using drugs and alcohol, they can have, it'll cause holes and tears in their aura, and things can attach that way too. But and I've done exorcisms too, so I do a lot of different things. Whatever comes up is what I'm going to deal with. That wasn't really where I was going with this. But what we also know, when people are using things like ice, they're just psychotic at times. They are paranoid. They don't trust anybody. So it means it's really hard to do any work with them and help them while they're in that state. And that, of course, is going to be an ongoing trigger for them. Environmental changes. So major life transitions like moving to a new city or starting a new job, situations that are perceived as threatening or overwhelming. And then we get back to the panic attacks. I've just realized my microphone's not that close to me, and I hope you guys can hear me well enough. So panic attacks, biological factors, genetic predisposition. So when we've grown up in a family where we've got a mother that's got anxiety or panic, then it's going to increase our risk of having it. And quite often, as I said, people will go back into the womb and say, well, mum's stressed. I don't know what's happening. I can feel it. And just remember, if mum's got an adrenaline and cortisol flowing through her bloodstream, so have you when you're in there. So understanding that means that quite often our anxiety comes from before we're even born. And when we can go back and get to a place before we've had those bad feelings, then we can bring the strong feelings through. So psychological factors, high levels of stress and prolonged anxiety. And yep, you guys know what that's all about. Triggers, stressful situations. Quite often it's worrying about our kids too, because we feel helpless. We don't know how to help them when they won't help themselves, or they're not able to help themselves at times. So you can read all through that later. Post-traumatic stress, again, that's exposure to life-threatening events like military combat or family combat, natural disasters, accidents, violent assaults. And so often you'll find that maybe somebody's been raped, and after that, they've just got this massive fear, and they'll close themselves down. They can't trust anybody. And it's just debilitating. And again, it leads to post-traumatic stress disorder as well. Now, short-term versus long-term stresses and anxieties. Short-term, as I said, is really basically somebody, you trip over and you go into a stress situation, but you get back up again and you're fine, you recover. So it's just temporary. The adrenaline and cortisol goes up and then it calms back down again. Physical effects, fight or flight, freeze or submit, which I mentioned earlier. Response is activated, preparing to confront or to flee the perceived threat, or submit or freeze. And then hormones like adrenaline and cortisol released. Psychological changes. Physiological changes, increased heart rate, elevated blood pressure, rapid breathing, muscle tension, dilated pupils. So they're all sort of signs of shock as well. Energy mobilization, the liver releases glucose for quick energy. Fat stores are broken down for additional fuel. Suppressed non-essential functions, digestion slows down, immune response is temporarily suppressed to prioritize immediate survival. Sex drives down as well, by the way. And so in a short-term crisis, we can cope with that. Our ancestors had to run away from those tigers and hunt through the jungles. But when that goes on day after day after day, it then has a huge impact on our bodies. And when we look at these negative effects, headaches and migraines, gastrointestinal issues like stomach aches, diarrhea, sleep disturbances, and long-term, it just prolonged exacerbates the whole thing. So prolonged activation of the stress response, continuous release of stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline, noradrenaline as well, hypertension and atherosclerosis. But the immune system really gets knocked down when we're constantly under that level of stress. Increased susceptibility to infection, illness, and life-threatening diseases like cancer. What we also know, which I haven't written down here, is when we're constantly in that state of stress and we've got adrenaline and cortisol going through our system, it also makes our blood more acidic. And acid blood is what happens when we die. Our blood becomes more acidic and it breaks our tissues down. So when we've got a lot of stress, that can also be a predisposition to things like arthritis and diabetes, as well as cancers. So they're all related to stress. So musculoskeletal issues, gastrointestinal problems, endocrine system disruption, mental health impacts, sleep disturbances, cognitive impairment. So you know yourself when you're under stress, you can't remember facts, you can't think clearly, and you're more likely to say whatever you need to say to get that person away from you, rather than thinking, what do I need to say that's going to get me the right effect? Chronic pain. And what we notice, particularly with people with depression, lower back is one of the biggest back areas they have pain in. And when we look at metaphysics, which is not here, but I will make sure that you get a copy of the printed out sheet that I found on the internet for Louise Hay, her book, Heal Your Body, which both of you have probably seen. I will put a link in this book as well, maybe, or I'll just make sure that you get that in our group. We've already got it in there, I think, because I've got a group there, and I'll put it on the website as well. And when we look at metaphysics, we know that metaphysics means more than the physical. So if we look at the body, we want to think of what does this body part do for the body as a whole, and how can that relate back to my emotional state? Now, the lady who wrote this book, Louise Hay, who died a few years ago at the age of about 97, I think she was, and or 93 or something, but Louise was a counsellor for more than 50 years. And what she found was the people that came in with the same emotional stuff had the same physical stuff. So she was able to make that link. Now, there have now been lots and lots of people that have got the same information or the same understanding. And when you look at the work of Deepak Chopra, he talks about different emotional states deposit different chemicals in different parts of the body. And I've got in my kinesiology stuff, it's a book this thick that's really goes into in-depth understandings of mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual causes for all these things. And Martina, incidentally, mine was left breast as well. And so I used to teach Tai Chi for 10 years as well. So when we look at the body, we've got yin and yang, and our yin side is the left side. That's our feminine energy. And another way to look at that is our personal issues. So that's our stuff we keep, our family life generally. Yang energy, the masculine energy, is on the right side of the body, and that is either a male or it's the side you show to the outside world. So that can often be work issues. So when we kind of understand that for starters, and we see breasts, what do the breasts do? They nurture. So when we have breast cancers, it's because we're nurturing others and we're not nurturing ourselves. And when we have problems with the uterus and the ovaries, again, we're looking at, this is the seed of creation and nurturing. And again, that is that we're not nurturing ourselves as well. So that's really quite related, the breasts and the ovaries and the uterus. When we've got intestinal problems, we know that is how we digest our emotions, because that's where we digest food. When we think of liver problems, people say that person's got shit on the liver. So that's anger. That's the seed of anger. And that's where we process our blood and process a lot of emotional stuff as well. So shoulders, carrying the weight of the world on our shoulders. These little phrases have been around before we even knew about Louise Hay. And so the Chinese in particular, with our Chinese medicine, have an understanding of different body parts and different emotions as well. So that's another lesson there, another workshop, no doubt. And so when we look at this, we now want to come up with some strategies. Now, breathing exercises, we take for granted the breathing, and there are a few different breathing exercises here. The 4-7-8 breathing. So you breathe in for 4, hold for 7, breathe out for 8. Generally, I will do a 3-5 breathing pattern with my clients because it's easier for them to have to do rather than have to hold it in the middle. But what we're doing there is stimulating the vagus nerve, and we'll talk about that in a moment as well. And the vagus nerve connects our gut and our head and our heart. And so as we start to breathe more slowly and extend the outer breath, it actually triggers a part of the brain. It triggers the parasympathetic nervous system to tell us that we're safe and we can calm down. So mindfulness is another thing that we can do, and that means and I think I might have done this with you, Alicia, and I haven't written it down, but I probably should have. Just when you're in a stressful situation, come back into, in this moment, 3 things I can see, 3 things I can hear, 3 things I can feel. And then just get back into, in this moment, I am safe. In this moment, wait a minute, this is a table. The table's okay. And it's really just about coming right back into the present moment, because the present moment is where we have power to make change. Now, physical activity is another wonderful thing that can really get rid of adrenaline straight away. And this is why even for people, we talk about going to the gym when we've got stress, because we're switching off. We're using a different part of the brain. We're using our creative right part of the brain for starters, but we're also burning up all that adrenaline and cortisol. So we're really giving it a chance to reset in our bodies. And short bursts in a short-term situation work really well. Long-term strategies, regular physical activity, engaging in going for walks or going to the gym or doing something helps to manage our stress hormones and improves our overall health. And what we also know is that people that exercise regularly deal with short-term stress and long-term stress a whole lot more easily. Even chess champions will go and up their physical activity before they've got a match, interestingly enough. Now, healthy diet's always important too, because we are what we eat is the saying, but it's pretty damn spot on, because if we're eating a diet that's high in sugar, and incidentally, sugar is a predisposition to drugs and alcohol for a lot of people as well. People don't understand that. Sugar is highly addictive. So eating a balanced diet supports physical health and reduces the impact of stress. And that means trying to have a bit of protein with every meal that's going to stabilize your blood sugar, so you won't be having the peaks and the drops. Because when I've got clients for weight loss, particularly if they're eating high carbohydrate diets or high sugar diets, they'll eat that bit of sugar or a bit of chocolate or whatever. So many of us are into the chocolate thing, and particularly at the wrong time of the month. It'll send your blood sugar up. Your body overproduces insulin because that is toxic in your bloodstream. Your body goes, oh my God, what are we going to do with that? That's toxic. So it'll overproduce insulin, drop that down below where it was before. Then if you feel tired and lethargic, and we'll go, I'll just go and get another bit of chocolate. So it sets us up for this blood sugar level going up and down, which then can lead to insulin resistance, but it also leads to mood swings, and people get really aggressive and angry if they eat a lot of sugar, particularly if you try to take it off them. And so generally about 3 days, if you cut your sugar and your carbs, 3 days will actually, you'll find that will get rid of the cravings. So sleep is another thing. And I'm guilty of not getting enough sleep, because I do a lot of my work when Evie goes to sleep, because I have to put her to bed every night because of the trauma she's been through. And that means I've got to lie in the bed with her till she's unconscious, till she's asleep. And quite often if I try to sneak out, she goes, Grandma, where are you going? No distractions, come back. And so quite often I will wait till she's asleep, and then I'll go, oh, now I'm going to get some work done, because I'll be at work all day, and as soon as I get home, there's this little one waiting, and she runs at me, and I have to pick her up and give her a hug, and then we have dinner, and then it's bedtime. So there's not a lot of time in there for me to get anything done. And last night, because I have an interview next week with Johannes Rendell, who is the Grandmaster and Lineage Bearer for Reiki Australia, no, not Reiki Australia, for Asui Shiki Reiki Ryoho. So he's the big kahuna of Reiki in our Western world, pretty much. And so I stayed up last night doing all the questions for the interview so I could send an email to him and the Zoom link and all the rest of it. And yeah, so that's probably not working in my favor. That's probably the biggest thing that I've got to really make some changes with and get back to some wonderful sleep patterns, because because I'm also running, I've got how many Facebook? I think I've got about 6 Facebook pages on my personal one, my work one. I've got an Abundant Spirit group where I'm, again, trying to help as many people as I can with positive stuff every day. And I've got my Reiki Circle group, and now I've got this little Mini-Blitz group as well. And then there's Instagram. I have an oily group, which I don't really get into very often. And now I also help with Reiki Australia's main page, members and friends page, and members only. So that's 8 different Facebook pages. And luckily we can schedule. So yes, I probably do have ADHD, but it's working for me. And okay, so sleep is something that's now on my hit list that I better start making some inroads on. But luckily I don't need that much sleep, and I never have. Relaxation techniques. Practice regular relaxation methods like yoga, Tai Chi, or progressive muscle relaxation. I do meditate every night as well. Even after I might stay up till 2 o'clock doing work, I will also make sure then I do some meditation before I go to sleep. And sometimes that might be 10 minutes, sometimes that might be an hour or 2 hours. But I always make sure I meditate before I go to bed. And I started that practice more than 10 years ago, probably when I went to a Vipassana retreat in the Blue Mountains and did 10 hours meditation a day for 10 days and wasn't allowed to talk. And that's the thing that taught me how to meditate and how to still the mind, which was just such a blessing. Social support. So that's building a strong support network of friends and family that really helps buffer against chronic stress. Now, Alicia, if your family is your stress, I'm just very glad that you've got some friends, and you need to spend more time with your friends and get the hell out of that household a whole lot more. Therapy. So that's where I am. And as I said, what I had to do when I had, before I even had the breast cancer, when I was running the health and fitness center, my knees had blown out. I had chondromalacia patella, iliotibial band syndrome, inflamed fat pads, and patella tendonitis. And my knees have been swollen for 3 years. And the surgeon said, there's a 20% chance we'll fix your knees, forget it. You'll never exercise again, and you can't go for walks. And then I blew the whistle on this fellow dipping into the till and lost my job because he was drinking buddies with the new secretary manager. And then I went and did a Reiki training. I did level 1, and the teacher said, Carol, come back on Thursday and Friday, do your level 2. You're meant to do it. It's in your path. And I did. On the plane home, I had a partial kundalini rising up my spine. When I got home, I put my hands on my knees for 20 minutes and went to bed. And the next day, the swelling and pain was gone. And I remember going, oh my God, this is real. And so that was the thing that started me looking for what I need to do to heal myself. And if I was to plan it any better, I couldn't have done it any better. For me to be where I am today, looking at all the things I've overcome, all the obstacles to get to where I am, everything was valid, everything was important, everything was a stepping stone that grew me, that grew my soul. And I want you guys to always think the same thing too. Just look back, because if we knew then what we know now, probably we would have done things differently. But when we look back, we see that everything serves us. And whether that's my imagination or the way that I choose to believe my life works, I just see that everything is purposeful. There are no mistakes, and everything is an opportunity for us to overcome. And that's what we're here about. That's what we're all about. Just building up our strength so that we can just rise up like a phoenix from the ashes of those old circumstances. So hypnotherapy, as you understand by now, it's getting pretty much mainstream. Psychotherapy, cognitive behavior therapy, and lots of other forms of therapy can address chronic anxiety and stress, alleviate anxiety, stop panic attacks and post-traumatic stress in their tracks. And in most cases, I can probably get rid of somebody's depression in generally 3 sessions, but everybody's different. And as I said, Alicia, if we're constantly being triggered, it makes a longer journey. But you know that I'm always here to support you, as I am for all of my clients. Now, although I think energy medicine and hypnosis are the fastest, most effective treatments, I've put that section at the very end so that we can use it for a demonstration. Now, energy medicine techniques, we talk about things like Reiki. With all 3 of us in this group have done Reiki training, which is awesome. EFT is tapping, and we're tapping on the really their meridian points. And again, that changes the flow in those meridians in the energy system. Tai Chi, which I taught for 10 years, I taught yoga for 10 years as well. But Tai Chi is just movements that's meant to unblock the meridians, and yoga is too, but there are lots of other things that we can use to clear stuck energy and help bring that person back into a state of balance. Kinetic Shift is another one that I do, and it's, when I learned it, they said it's a hypnotic technique. Not for me. For me, it's an energy medicine technique with a little bit of hypnosis just thrown in. Pardon me. And we did some Kinetic Shift last week in our pain video. So go back and have a look at that, Martina, and it'll tell you where that section is if you want to have a look at it, because it really is understanding, because I've done Touch For Health Kinesiology too. And in Chinese medicine, we've got 14 main rivers of qi or meridians through the system, through the body. And if we get a block in that flow in the river, it's going to cause a dam. And if we've got dammed up energy, it causes pain and dis-ease in the body and illness. So the way I explain Reiki to people is when we've got emotional stuff going on in our life, it causes a block in the flow of our energy field in our aura. And if we can't deal with it, that will move into manifest as illness or injury on the body. But it's also because it's blocking the meridians, it's blocking chakras, it's just blocking the flow. And when we do things like energy medicine, we're not saying I can cure you, because we're not doing anything other than helping that person to clear the blocked energy so their body does the healing. The body is the healer, and we're just the hollow reed. But it's just understanding that on a quantum physics level, we are all energy and information. Our thoughts affect everything. So if we want to work on our physical bodies, we've got to work on our mind. And just understanding that there is a difference between short-term and long-term stress and anxiety, because they have different impacts on the body. Long-term is the thing that we want to avoid. And if we can deal with the ups and downs and recover more quickly, then we're going to be healthier for longer. Now, the vagus nerve is a nerve that comes from the stomach and right up, but it's triggered by the breathing. And there's a whole lot of stuff there. And I'm not going to read through it because I just looked at the time and it's 11:24. So we're going to keep moving through. But I want you to have a little look through this. This has got the breathing, how to practice inhale quietly through the nose and on the count of 4 out, hold for 7. The 4, 7, 8. Then it's a 4, 4. So we can breathe in for 4, out, hold for 4, out for 4, hold for 4. And breathe in through the nose for 5 seconds, breathe out. There's lots of different breathing techniques. Mindfulness, how to do that, how to focus your attention and what it does, how it really does enhance your memory and cognitive function and the physical stuff. There's a whole lot of stuff here on that. You can have a read through. Exercise, as we mentioned earlier, releases endorphins, reduces the stress hormones, blah, blah, blah. And as I said, we'll just go through that because I want to get on and do some stuff with you guys now. Hydration, make sure you're drinking plenty of water, because if you think of electricity, it works with water. It flows better. And that means when our bodies are hydrated, our energies flow better. And it also means that we're clearing toxins out of the system. Just remember, the body is like a big beaker of chemicals, but it needs to also be stirred, and it needs liquid in there to make it not congeal and pool. So we want everything flowing. Anti-stress and anti-anxiety diet. There's a whole lot of information there for you. Dark chocolate's on that list, which was good. Foods to avoid. Now we say caffeine, but if you've got massive anxiety, I'm not going to say don't drink caffeine, because it's actually got some health benefits too. I have 2 a day. When I was nursing many years ago, I got it up to 4, and then I realized it owned me. And I remember going, oh my God, I feel like I have to have that cup of coffee now. Right, well, I'm not going to have any for 6 months. And that's what I did. And since then, I just have 2 a day. That's my limit. And it doesn't seem to cause too many problems. It keeps me more alert when I'm working with clients, particularly if I've been up till 2 o'clock the night before. And so it's always about balance. Everything's about balance. Sugar is one of the things we want to cut down on or avoid. Processed foods, because we know they've got additives, they've got fats and sugars, alcohol. Moderation in all things is really a better way to look at this, probably, because we can say moderation in all things, including moderation, because we don't want to drive anxiety by telling you you've got to have OCD about your food. So it's all about balance, and that's what I want everybody to really understand. Getting enough sleep, that's me. That's my little reminder to myself there. Relaxation techniques are there, some herbal and natural remedies. Now, I put that down as an afterthought yesterday. And part of that was I've been using essential oils for probably 40 years or something, but not in a medical way until the last probably 10 or so years, when doTERRA came on the scene and they really publicized the health benefits. And so lots of us know that lavender helps sleeping babies. Now, let me also say, if somebody's got bipolar or sometimes ADHD, they will have an opposite effect to some of those oils. And it's energy. It's all energy. But it's like some kids with ADHD, you could give them Phenergum and they're climbing the roof. And I had one of those children myself. My son was a bit like that. And what we know is if we've got the floral things like things that would normally calm a child down, if they have ADHD or massive anxiety or bipolar, you're better to go with the grounding oils like the balance thing that doTERRA put out. It's a blend with woody things like cedar works really well for calming people down. There's just a lot of the really grounding ones. Patchouli I wear every day as a general rule. So maybe I've been self-medicating with that to keep myself balanced without realizing it back in the day. And yeah, so it's about having a little look at that. I know doTERRA have also got their emotional aromatherapy kit and their moon management kit. I haven't bought any of yours for 6 months because I've got so many of them and I'm using them all the time, but I use them in here in my room. I put them on when I've got clients to really help support that person in their process. So social support's a really big one, and it's one of our basic needs as well, and that means you need somebody to talk to about what's going on in your life. I know back in the day when we had little kids, we had mothers groups, and we weren't all working like we do these days, and we would catch up with our friends, and that's gone out the door with our busyness in our lives. And so it's always mindful that we need to connect with friends. We need to connect with people we feel safe with, that we can just offload. And quite often I'll ring a friend and they'll just talk the whole time about what's going on in their life. And at the end of the session, they'll go, end of the conversation, they'll go, oh, I feel much better now. Thanks. See ya. And I, I'll tell them what's going on in my life too. And then we both feel better. And we just had a bit of an old chin wag. So that's the old days counselling. Now that we don't have that, people come and see me or people go and have other therapies. But in the old days, we didn't need that. We had friends. We had people that we could just sit down and have a cup of coffee with or a cup of tea with and just have a bit of a chat. So it's about finding ways to get these needs met so that we can cope with all the crap that goes on outside those moments of stillness. Mind-body techniques. This is the area I love. And I've worked in this field for quite a long time, really since getting sick and understanding that connection between the mind and the body. And I know you can't affect one without the other. So we need to look at all those aspects so that we can just move on. Reiki and energy medicine techniques. So Reiki, Touch For Health, EFT, Kinetic Shift, other energy medicine techniques, and there's millions of them out there these days. Actually, Donna Eden on YouTube, she does Touch For Health Kinesiology, but she calls it energy medicine, and she's got a lot of self-help stuff there that if you want to go searching, and the EFT, you could look that up too, and just type in EFT for anxiety or energy medicine for anxiety, and you'll find videos that can give you some techniques to use as well. We're going to do some tapping in a moment, and I've written it all out because unless you've done it, you probably won't remember it. And so what we're going to do is maybe just get everybody, and there's a sequence there, everybody to just unblock your microphones for a moment if nobody's gone to sleep there, and let's get a scale. And what I mean by that is 0 to 10. I should have done this at the start of our session to find out what level you feel like your anxiety is, because if we can measure it now, we're going to do some tapping, then we'll get another number, and then we're going to get in and do some hypnosis so we can just calm and just chill things down a little bit and hopefully reduce your anxiety, which means that you can then play the video back and share it with your daughter and your husband if need be. And Alicia, you just need to run this thing 24/7.
Yeah.
So, Alicia, where would you say your anxiety is at the moment? And I think we've got an appointment. Is that today?
Yeah.
Yay. So you might come in and go, no, I don't need you today. See ya. We'll see how we go. Where do you think your anxiety might be today?
I think in my chest and head.
What number do you think it might be?
About a 9.
Okay. Martina, where is your anxiety at the moment?
I can feel it in my solar plexus.
Okay.
Yeah.
So remember, solar plexus is point of personal power. And that means things are outside your control.
Very much
Yeah.
so.
Yeah. And for Alicia, your chest and your head. Chest is where we often have grief as well, and anxiety. And the head is a dislike of being pressured. We've got this pressure going on all the time. So it's interesting when we look at those things as well. And Martina, what number would you think yours would be on at the moment?
Probably a 3.
Okay, cool. And so we're just going to start by doing some easy tapping. Have you done any EFT before, Martina?
No. Oh, people have shown me things, but I don't
You haven't
understand.
really, yeah.
No, I haven't.
Well, so I think down the bottom of this menu, we've got a picture of meridians. Let me just find it. Yes. So these are, I have to make that a bit smaller. Whoops, now I've gone too small. I have to go one up. This is levels of consciousness with David Hawkins stuff. There's the aura, and there's a diseased aura on the right side of the page. And this is the human body meridian. So if we're looking, I don't know if I can just attach that. If we're looking up closer, see these points here, tapping, it says there, or does it? No, it says tapang, that's Chinese. Okay, so we're looking at around the eye modalities, around the head, the gallbladder, and stomach, and different meridians. We're looking at, this is liver here, but we're looking at the spleen down here, which is about our immune system. So spleen meridian. When we do tapping, we're actually tapping on some of these points. Okay. So don't stress too much, because it wasn't meant to be one workshop that's going to make people get too stressed. Easy enough to do, though, when we've got so much going on. Now, where were we with that tapping bit? Doing a demonstration. That's for the, I think that might be for the, I've gone past it, I think. I've got to find it again now, so that you've got it there in front of you. Nope, I've gone too far. I've gone right to the very end. And exercise, it was past here, wasn't it? Hydration, blah, blah, blah. Relaxation, essential oils, and next should be our tapping. So basically we get a score of 0 to 10, and my computer just glitched. It does all sorts of weird things here sometimes, and that might be stress, anxiety, panic, or PTSD. It might be just that general feel of anxiety, or a specific stressful event that you might be dealing with. Rate it of 0 to 10, and then set up a statement that involves acknowledging the issue and accepting ourselves despite that issue. So, Martina, you might make an issue up that says, even though my daughter has had problems, I love and accept myself. Or it might be, even though I'm going through some really turbulent times, dealing with everybody's stuff, I love and approve of myself, or I love and accept myself. So come up with something for you that feels right. And what we'll do is, when we do this, I want you to think about the right statement for yourself. Maybe even write that down if you've got a pen. And Alicia, you could write one out for yours. Even though I live in a war zone with my family, I love and approve of myself, whatever that might be. Even though my life feels out of control, I love and approve of myself. So write down one that works best for you. And then what we're going to do is, I'm going to let you turn your microphone off, so that we can go through the process, and that way you can say it out loud as well. Because I want you to also remember, everything is energy and information. Our intention has energy, and our words have energy, and our thoughts have energy. So if we say the words, we're verbalizing them, but we're also hearing those words coming back through our ears. And if we're tapping on those points, it can then unblock the stuck energy in those particular meridians. And it's interesting, like if I've got somebody and I'm doing work with them, if they've got pain in one foot or something, I can tap the other foot and it's going to clear the energy in that foot as well. So it's all intention, but it's all that river of chi that's flowing around, so that we can clear blocked energy through working on a different part of the body, even because it's the river. And sometimes working upriver, sometimes we're working downstream. But through the tapping sequence, we're kind of hitting most of those meridians. So we've set up that intention. We've set up a specific phrase that we want to use. So that's our personal setup statement. So we're tapping on the following meridian points that while repeating the reminder phrase that captures the essence of the issue. So this anxiety, below the pinky is here too. That's the karate chop point we're working on. The eyebrows, just right here or in the middle if you wanted to. And the sides of the eyes. So again, we're here. And then under the eye here. And K27 points, kidney points here where's that down? That's down collarbone, that's lower. But here, these points are where the collarbone comes, just inside there's a little indent. Now you can rub that really hard or you can tap on it. But if you tap that, that'll often unlock all the energy in the body and it'll get things flowing back in the right direction. So it's always a really good one. Don't be too soft. Give it a really good tap when you get to that. Under the nose, so that's just here. The chin, the collarbone, we're going to call that. Under the arm is just in here. These are spleen points. And then on the top of the head as well. And we want to tap about 5 times in each of those places. And as we tap, we want to say the statement, even though this anxiety is causing me to have sleepless nights, I love and approve of myself. So we'll say the same statement. We can then alter it as we go through, as we complete the circuit. We can say, this anxiety, even though I have this anxiety, I love and approve of myself. Even though my daughter has so many issues, I love and approve of myself. Even though I'm not getting any sleep at nighttime and it's driving my anxiety, I love and approve of myself. So we can just start doing that. And you'll find that it's going to take the numbers down. That's what we want to do. And then after we do this, we're going to then get you guys to take a breath, and we're going to do some easy hypnosis, maybe some on generalized anxiety mode, maybe some on overwhelm that you might be able to then use with other people or with yourself, so that we can just start to make some good changes and have some tools for later on. That's the main thing. So are you ready to start? Excellent. And so, yes, you've already got your microphones off. So let's just begin. And what we want to do now is start here on those karate chop points. Even though my life is sometimes out of control, I love and approve of myself. Even though my daughter has her own health issues, I'm trying to manage that and help the best I can. And it's driving my anxiety, I love and approve of myself. So we could work with one, or we could work with a different variation on each of these points. Even though I have this anxiety that keeps me awake at night, I love and approve of myself. Even though I can't manage everybody else in my life and try to help them because they're resisting and it's driving my anxiety, I love and approve of myself. Even though I put everybody else first and I never take time for myself and it leaves me running on empty, I love and approve of myself. Even though my life gets out of control from time to time, I love and approve of myself. Oh, I miss the nose. So it doesn't really matter if you go in a different order. This anxiety that sits below the surface, 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 this anxiety that drives me crazy sometimes and stops me from feeling peaceful. It sits below the surface, yet I love and approve of myself. This anxiety causes me to feel stressed and worried, but I love and approve of myself. Even though this anxiety gets in the way of me feeling peaceful, I love and approve of myself. Even though this anxiety drives me crazy at times and causes me to put everybody else first, I love and approve of myself. Even though this anxiety, for most of us, turns me into a people pleaser and makes me neglect myself, I love and approve of myself. Even though this anxiety makes me feel bad, I love and approve of myself. Even though this anxiety sits below the surface, I love and approve of myself. Even though this anxiety causes me to neglect my own physical needs at times, skipping meals, not sleeping enough, not drinking enough water, not taking that regular exercise, I love and approve of myself. This anxiety, 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 this anxiety. I love and approve of myself. This level of stress, yet I love and approve of myself. Even though I worry about stuff I can't affect, I love and approve of myself. Even though this worry gets in the way of me taking time out to connect with Mother Nature and enjoy my life, I love and approve of myself. Even though this stress and anxiety holds me back sometimes and stops me speaking up for myself, I love and approve of myself. Even though this anxiety means I've got to lock myself in my room and keep away from my family, I love and approve of myself. Even though my sister drives me crazy and I feel like I want to kill her at times, I love and approve of myself. This anxiety, this stress, this post-traumatic stress, this panic doesn't stop me from being who I am. I love and approve of myself. Even though I carry the burdens of others, I love and approve of myself. Even though at times I feel like I can't get up, I love and approve of myself. Even though my son has had health issues, my daughter has health issues, and I'm trying to help them every chance I can, I love and approve of myself. Even though these feelings make me feel helpless and hopeless at times, I love and approve of myself. Even though I get triggered from time to time when I walk into my war zone, I love and approve of myself. Even though life can be difficult and I have to get up every day and keep going, I love and approve of myself. Even though I have this anxiety, I love and approve of myself. I am good enough just as I am. I love and approve of myself. I am good enough just as I am. I love and approve of myself. I am good enough just as I am. I love and approve of myself. Even though it's been difficult in the past, I am still standing. I love and approve of myself. Even though I've faced insurmountable challenges, I love and approve of myself. Even though the world sometimes feels like it's pushing me down into a corner, I still stand and love and approve of myself. Even though I have to face abuse from my sister on a daily basis, and my mother lets her get away with it, and my father joins in, I love and approve of myself. Even though people don't know who I really am, I love and approve of myself. Even though I have to lock myself away to survive every day, and I miss my dogs that have passed away, I love and approve of myself. This feeling of grief and anxiety and pain does not stop me from loving and approve of myself. I am a human being. I face lots of challenges, but I love and approve of myself. I am on my own side, regardless of the rest of the world. I love and approve of myself. So let us stop now and take a big breath in and just breathe out. And let's do that again 2 more times, breathing in and breathing out. And just 1 more time, breathing in and breathing out. Now, how are you all feeling? I threw in some extras in there for on behalf of both of you. You might have noticed, trying to give you some ideas. So, Martina, what number are you feeling now?
I'm feeling so alive. 0.
Excellent. Excellent.
Incredible.
Perfect. Alicia, what number are you on?
I'm about a 4.
Wow.
That's awesome. That's fantastic from a 9. So normally, if we're doing this sequence at home and we're still got a 4, we have a glass of water because water hydrates. And I know when we're doing energy medicine, sometimes we'll have an opposite, like we'll test weak for something, we should be strong because we're dehydrated. We can then muscle test by pulling our hair and then do a muscle test. I'm going to show you how to do a muscle test. It's not on the agenda, but we can muscle test, and then we can know that we're dehydrated, and then when we drink water, we'll get a better flow and we'll get a better reaction. So I'm going to have some as well. Cheers, biggies, as they say. Alicia, grab some water if you've got some. Anybody else, grab some water. Because that water will also get the energy flowing. And so now that I've mentioned muscle testing, which I wasn't going to be dealing with in this session, we're probably going to do one on energy medicine at another time. I'm just going to show you guys how to do that. Now, because I've got earphones on so that I can hear you better, because my microphone in my computer is not that loud, but it's great when I use the speakers and use this. I'm going to stand up and do a demonstration for you, because I want to show you a thing called a body pendulum. But before we do that, this is just I did a thing called neurostress release many years ago before I did kinesiology. Neurostress release means you say a statement and you test to see if it's accurate, if it's test strong or test weak. When you ask questions for kinesiology, you've got to ask a question that's going to give you a yes or a no answer, or a strong or a weak answer. So, for example, if I was to say, I am a girl, and I muscle test. So this is one muscle test I use. And we might just go off the share for a moment. Stop sharing. And let me see if I can make this. I don't know what I've done here, but now it's the view I've got. If I go back to speaker. So when we do muscle testing, a muscle test is not necessarily muscle test. It's not to see how strong you are. It's an energy test, just to see if that flow of energy is congruent through your meridians, through your system. And so one of the easiest things that you can do is just use your own hand, because if we go and if I'm doing kinesiology on a client, they'll hold out their arm. I'll say this statement, I am a girl, and they'll test strong. And I'll say this statement, I am a boy, and they won't be able to hold their arm up. Okay. So you've probably all seen this on TV. You'll see a lot of it in Donna Eden's work on the internet as well. And so we often go, well, how can I test myself? How can I do that for myself? And in kinesiology, they didn't sort of teach that. They taught the sway test, which I'll teach you in a moment. But when I did the neurostress release course years ago, they just said to make a ring. Now, some people do it this way. I was taught this way, and that's what I do. Make a ring with your hand. I'm left-handed. I'm going to use my left hand here. So just try both and get a level of pressure in your fingers that's going to stop your hand there and say, I am a girl. And then when you say I'm a boy, you won't be able to hold it. I'm a girl, I'm a boy. I'm a girl, I'm a boy. Now, you need to practice till you find the right level of pressure. And once you start getting good at that, and it's just practice, you'll be able to test for all kinds of things. Now, I do remember I went to a workshop many years ago with Louise Hay, Deepak Chopra, Wayne Dyer, Tara Kate Collins, somebody else. She was a feng shui lady. There was somebody else there too. Anyway, and it was at Darling Harbour. And Wayne Dyer, who's written many, many books and who also incidentally died, I think, on the same day Louise Hay did, or on the anniversary or something, which is kind of interesting because they were all friends. But Wayne Dyer talked about doing a workshop up in Brisbane years before with 5,000 people in it. And he said, every person that came in the door, they handed an envelope and they didn't tell them what was in it. Now, half of them had aspartame and half of them had crushed vitamin C tablets. And then they tested everybody. And the people that had aspartame all tested weak without knowing what was in the envelope. People that had the vitamin C tested strong. And then they opened the envelopes to see who had what. And it was just inconclusive because it's all energy, it's quantum physics. And so when I had breast cancer, one of the things I did to work out what vitamins to have was I put the little bottle of vitamins just in here. So it was over my thymus gland, which is, again, immune system. I just muscle tested. And I did it with my eyes closed. I had 15 lots of vitamins, which was crazy. When I had them all out on the bench, I closed my eyes and went, put that over here. Put that over here. Muscle. Oh, what's this? Coenzyme Q10. And I did it 3 times in a row, and it came up weak every single time without me knowing. And I was angry about it because I just spent $63 on the damn bottle of vitamins and they tested weak. So I gave them away to somebody. But it meant that that was one less tablet I had to take. But we've got to trust the wisdom of our body. And so I'm going to show you the sway test now. And again, make sure you're hydrated when you do the test, or it can come up opposite. And I'm just going to move my little chair and take my earphones out. And I don't have to hear you, but you can hear me. And so I'm in my Reiki room in my office at the moment now. I guess you can still see me. So we want to turn, I'm going to turn sideways so you can understand. Can you guys hear me, by the way? Just give me a thumbs up or a wave. Excellent. And so from this position, we want to make sure our feet are under our hips and elevate, imagining that you've got a golden thread pulling up. And now as we stand, we're going to say a statement that we know is true. So it might be, I am a girl, I am a girl, I am a girl. And we tend to rock forward because we're moving forward towards the truth. I am a boy, I am a boy, and we tend to rock backwards. So it's a pretty simple test. And again, as with anything, you need to practice to get good at it. And you need to practice to kind of feel your own body and be fully present. And when you do that, you can use the muscle testing as a way to get some truths about what you need to do for your next step forward. Now, when I do Reiki on somebody at the end of the session, while they've got their eyes closed, I'll often do infinities over their body, which is part of Touch For Health Kinesiology. But if you do them in the wrong direction, that can have a bad effect. So I'll go like that and then I'll test. Right, that's the right. So I'll do some more of that. If I test and it's weak, I'll go, oh, I've got to do the infinity in the opposite direction. Now, I'll do that without even touching that person because we're connected. Energetically, we're always connected. So we can do techniques on somebody when we're not actually even holding, touching their bodies. And so you've just learned another little tool, which really wasn't necessarily where we were going, but, you know, I just let these little workshops evolve. And so before we go on, I'm just going to ask if you guys have got any questions at the moment. Anybody got any questions for me? Anything else that you'd like to cover before we get on and do some hypnosis?
I'm just loving this. Thank you. It's just amazing.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Well, you know, as I said, I let the workshop sort of take us where we need to go. Everything's in your manual, but the world is so much bigger than what we see on paper. And you've been working with energy for a long, long time. So we've all just got little different aspects and little different ways we look at stuff. And I think just we're connected. We're here to help each other. And hopefully that you'll learn some stuff here that you didn't already know, or just a few extra little tools in your toolbox that's going to help you and help your family as well.
Thank you. And well, there are no coincidences. But for the last 3 weeks, just spontaneously, I've been doing infinity symbols over people on the Reiki table as well.
Okay.
Okay.
Excellent.
First
So
time.
you see, you were meant to be here today to hear what I just said. See how the synchronicities line us up?
Absolutely. Oh, I knew I was
Excellent.
here anyway, but thank you.
Perfect. Excellent. Alicia, how are you feeling at the moment?
Yeah, feeling really good. Like how last week, it's just
Excellent.
yeah, good.
Perfect. Because when we do our little sessions here, we're here for an hour and a half, and we're talking, but when we have this sort of a workshop, you're just getting some of the behind the scenes stuff. And I think that's really good. That's empowering for us, because when we can understand it, then we can get a bit more congruence with that conscious and subconscious, instead of them both running their own little races or walking off in opposite directions. So I think we might now do some hypnosis. So what I want you to do is find somewhere you're not going to be disturbed, which is where you are now because you're in front of my camera. And if you want to lie down, that's fine. It doesn't mean, like normally I would want to see your eyes if we were just doing some heavy duty stuff, because I want to watch you watch a flicker, and I want to watch your face colors shift a little bit as well. But the stuff we're doing, hypnosis is just like meditation. And what I also want you to know is when we do Reiki on people, if we could put on like I hypnotize people when they're on the table, according to what I find in their bodies, but I was doing that before I did hypnosis training. And so you could put on a meditation in the background, or you could talk one while that person's on the table, because again, their brainwaves drop into alpha theta brainwave pattern when they're on that table, or when they're having Reiki, or when you meditate, or when you do Reiki on yourself. You could have some really good stuff going on in the background coming through your earphones. So use everything. And, when you're driving down the highway, we call that highway hypnosis, but it's because our brainwaves go into alpha theta state. So when I go for a long drive, that's my university. That's when I'm doing study. I never stop studying and learning, because I've got that hunger. What else can I learn that's going to help somebody else? That's what we want to do. And at the moment, I've got 2 clients with they've got, what have they got? Ovarian cancer. So I'm doing everything I can to give them different tools that are going to help them feel empowered. So they're going to kick its butt. That's what we want. And what you find is when we're working, and I've said this in the last workshop, I said it, I'm going to say it again. We can come at things from lots of different angles. We can come at from an energy level, an energy medicine level, where we're clearing energetic blocks, which then clears emotional blocks and clears physical blocks. We can come at it from a mental level, which might be counseling and starting to shift some of those emotions, and then shift some of the energy and the physical blocks. We can come at it more from, I would call hypnosis mental and emotional, but we've got to tap into the subconscious, which is emotional state. When we tap into that that's where our emotions and our habits and patterns live. Our conscious rational mind is always trying to work it out, but the subconscious is the 90 to 95% where our patterns and habits and beliefs live, but it's our emotional creative side. So when we're using hypnosis, we tap into that. We've got that extra 90 to 95%, as well as the conscious rational part that's listening. And so again, that's going to clear emotional states, which is going to clear energy blocks, which is going to clear physical blocks. Because so often I'll have somebody who's come in and they've got a bad back, and I'll say, I'm not going to fix that now because I want you to see the power of when we shift your emotions. And we'll do the work to clear some depression, and they'll go, oh, my backache's gone. So everything's connected, and we can have things like work on the physical level first that can clear a lot of emotional stuff. Like often people will have massages, or they'll have some other sort of physical therapy that will bring on an emotional discharge, and it will clear a block energetically and emotionally and physically. So we've all got different poisons, different techniques that we're in different angles we come from, but it's all the same stuff. Our aim is clear the block because it's all layers of the same person. And we're just coming at it from a different angle, but everything works. So find your poison and stick with it. Find what works for you and share it with the world and share it with yourself and use it. So now let us find somewhere we can just relax. We're going to do something. We'll just start off with some generalized anxiety, and then I think we might do some stuff on overwhelm, because I know at times we do get overwhelmed. And the overwhelmed stuff I talk about might also help people to compartmentalize some of the stress that they're going through. And that will help with panic, and it will also help with post-traumatic stress. Panic, there's a technique for panic that works really well, and it's called the rewind technique. And Martine, I'll tell you this one now, because maybe we'll do a tiny little section on panic in our work as well. So I'm going to try to clear a lot of stuff. That way we can share this, we can help even more people. Perfect. So find a place you're not going to be disturbed. Just take a seat, relax back, make sure your head's supported. And I want you just to spend a few moments and just breathe for a moment. Just take a big breath in. And as you breathe out, I'll move my microphone closer. As you breathe out, start to extend that outer breath. So you're just breathing in and breathing out like a deep sigh. That's it. And then as you breathe, I want you now just to begin to focus your attention on your eyelids. And let those eyelids now just become so comfortable that they just don't need to work. So they're so relaxed, they couldn't be bothered to work. And so very comfortable, they couldn't be bothered to work. And then when you know you've done that, you might want to give them just this little test to make sure of that. Excellent. Then stop, testing, go deeper, relaxed. And imagine taking that same level of comfort that's in your eyes and take it all the way down across your body now, like this beautiful wave now flowing from the top of your head down to the tips of those toes. Now, of course, every breath can take you deeper. Every thought can take you deeper. And any outside noises can simply serve as a sign to relax. Just knowing that there's nowhere you need to be but here. Just taking some time out just for you, for a change. Excellent. And so once again, take that big breath in and breathe out and feel your body just relax right down a little bit more. And focusing on those eyelids, let them relax even more so, as if they had dumbbells sticky taped to them perhaps, so that they really start to relax so much they just don't need to work. Because there's nowhere you're going right now. This is your time. That's it. And so now we've got that beautiful level of comfort washing through the body and the mind. One last time, I want you just to test those eyes to make sure you really have relaxed them to the right level. And then stop testing, go deeper relaxed. And you can take that level of comfort down through the body even more so. From the top of your head down to the tips of those toes, like a beautiful wave now flowing. Excellent. Now, every breath can take you deeper, every thought can take you deeper, and every sound can take you deeper too. Just knowing that you're safe in the comfort of your own home or wherever you may be today. Excellent. And so now we've got that beautiful level of comfort washing through the body. We're going to begin to relax the mind just that little bit more. And so I'm going to count from 1 to 5. And what I'd like you to do is just relax your own mind down. Now, all hypnosis is just self-hypnosis anyway. And so all you've got to do is follow instructions and you'll get yourself down to that right level of comfort. So 1, just drifting deeper and deeper down. 2, as if every out breath for now taking you down this internal staircase. Just going deeper and deeper now. Safe and secure, calm and relaxed as we work together. 3, that relaxation continuing to deepen, knowing that you're safe and secure. 4, the deeper you go, the better you feel. And the better you feel, the deeper you let yourself go. And 5, as though you just want to go 10 times deeper now. From the top of your head down to the tips of those toes. Excellent. Now, because we do so much better with practice, one more time, I'm going to count from 1 to 5. And this time when I say the number 5, you'll be able to simply just double that relaxation through your own mind. Now, as I've said, if you want that, you can have that. It's all self-hypnosis. So 1, just drifting deeper and deeper down. 2, as if every out breath for now taking you down that internal staircase, just going deeper and deeper now. 3, that relaxation continuing to deepen and double more and more with every breath that you take, with every thought you think, with every sound that you hear, and with every word that I say. 4, the deeper you go, the better you feel. And the better you feel, the deeper you let yourself go. And 5, as though you want to just double that relaxation now from the top of your head down to the tips of those toes. And you can just continue relaxing deeper and deeper. Now, there are 3 main things that we do when we do hypnosis. The first thing that we do is that I can just talk, and just by following instructions, you've already got a beautiful level of comfort, just washing through the body and the mind. The second thing we do when we do hypnosis is that I can talk about these different pictures and images. And just because I mentioned those certain things, you would then be able to see them so much more clearly within the mind's eye. So, for example, even though you may not have been thinking about it a moment ago, Well, now that I mention it, you could probably bring up an image perhaps of a younger you, maybe on, near, or around a swing having some fun. Now you might be sitting on the swing or pushing the swing. You might be watching someone else on a swing having some fun. Again, it doesn't matter. It's all about knowing you can just bring that picture up easily enough and effortlessly enough. And so the third thing that we do anytime we do hypnosis is that we start to focus on these different feelings and sensations, because so often we just go throughout our day and throughout our life, in fact, totally unaware of many of the feelings and the sensations that we're experiencing or have ever experienced. But when we're in this state, we can just become even more aware of them. So, for example, even though you might not have been thinking about it a moment ago, now that I mention it, you could probably become even more aware of the feeling of the chair or bed or whatever it is that you're resting on now, that just reminds you you're safe and secure, calm and relaxed. Anytime we're working together, you and I, or just because I mention it, you might become even more aware of other sensations in the body, like the weight of your clothes on your body, or perhaps the warmth, might be the heaviness, it might be just that feeling of safety and security that reminds you you're always safe and secure and continually relaxing as we work together, you and I. And so now we've got that beautiful level of comfort washing through the body and the mind. The first thing I want to talk about is a generalized level of anxiety. Because as I mentioned earlier, many of us have had anxieties throughout our life, and over a period of time, it becomes a generalized disorder, also known as GAD, G-A-D, interestingly enough. And so anybody that's got a generalized hum of anxiety and worry under the surface, it means that it can make your life a bit of a struggle day to day. Now, if you're constantly worrying about the past or the present or the future or what could go wrong in the future, it can be really hard to think clearly and keep things in a proper perspective. Now, some people with generalized anxiety tell me it feels like their mind's constantly whirring, and the tiniest little thing just sets them off worrying. Sometimes it can come out of absolutely nowhere. And I've worked with thousands of clients who've had disrupted sleep where they just wake up in the middle of the night feeling anxious. And they didn't even know why. Now, there are physical symptoms, as we've talked about, that can happen when we've got generalized anxiety. Things like headaches and breathing difficulties, sweating and nausea that can lead to panic. Now, in any evolutionary terms, any anxiety somebody experiences really is just a straightforward physical process, because the body's just simply getting ready to either fight a predator or run away. Our nervous system evolved over millions of years just to respond to potential threats, like an encounter with a hungry lion, by speeding up the breathing and the heart rate, sending the blood to the extremities, to the arms and legs, so you can run faster, releasing adrenaline and cortisol, diverting those resources rather towards the muscles just to, as I say, prepare for that immediate fight or a rapid escape. But you see, it's probably much more appropriate to call this process a muscle primary response rather than anxiety. And this is one of the reasons why sometimes going for a bit of a walk or a jog can really help bring that level of anxiety down. Now, while the muscle primary is really good for running away from a hungry lion, it's not so good for dealing with our challenges in our modern life, like managing money or dealing with conflict at work or at home, struggling with interpersonal relationships, worrying about others in our families. And it's got a few negative side effects if it goes on for too long. And as a consequence, long-term anxiety can suppress our immune system, so we catch more colds, and it can go further than that. And as I mentioned, the adrenaline and cortisol can acidize the blood, which can lead to things like diabetes. Our diet can cause that insulin resistance, which increases that. And it can also lead to things like arthritis and cancers and all sorts of things. And IBS and Crohn's, and there's so many different things that are connected to the level of stress. This is because, as far as the body's concerned, there is a line about to attack. So fighting off a cold or digesting our lunch has to wait till later. Now, another consequence is that it can really be difficult to think clearly and rationally when we're in this state, because you see, the muscle primary response is about making quick life or death decisions to escape from physical danger. It's not about carefully analyzing a situation in depth and planning for the long term. And when we are in a highly emotional state, interestingly enough, the blood goes to the relobe of the brain. So the left hemisphere is our conscious, rational mind. It's logical, and it wants to analyze and try to work out strategies. The right part of the brain is the emotional fight or flight. Oh, well, it's not the fight or flight, but it's the part that deals in emotions and habits and patterns. And if we've consistently, every time we've been stressed, gone and lit up a cigarette or grabbed some food, a neural pathway builds in the brain from that part of the brain to that reaction or that habit or that pattern. So the right hemisphere of the brain is our subconscious, or connected to our subconscious. But in the middle is the amygdala. That's your fight, flight center. And every time you get stressed, the adrenaline and cortisol comes out. We go fight, flight, freeze, fight, flight, freeze, fight, flight, freeze. And eventually we get to that limit where we're ready to snap or have a breakdown. Now, when we are in a highly emotional state, not only does it mean that the blood is in that rear part of the brain instead of the prefrontal cortex, which is our connected to planning and thinking and thinking clearly and logically and rationally, but it means that we've got less access to those thinking parts of the brain. And what that means is not only there's the person that might be yelling at us in that state, a highly emotional state, not being able to be rational and calm down, but it means it throws us into a highly anxious state when we've got that fear of confrontation or whatever that might be, so that we can't think rationally and go, wait a minute, I don't think I have to agree with that. So, of course, hypnosis really is an excellent method for calming down any inappropriate anxiety, because in this state, it's just easy to relax more deeply. And from a deeper state of relaxation, we can just retrain that mind and body to start to feel calmer in situations that may have once caused you to worry. And this part of our session is just going to hypnotically embed into that unconscious mind a few tried and tested principles for really dealing with anxiety that have helped so many people feel so much calmer and much more confident in their day-to-day life, and then get over that anxiety for good. Now, I once had a lady who came and saw me, and she told me she'd had anxiety her whole life. She said she worried about so many different things. She'd worry if she made a mistake that she might offend somebody. She'd worry somebody was the tiniest little bit late, that something must have happened to them. She told me she tossed and turned every single night with her mind constantly worrying and finding all kinds of different things to worry about. Now, as I just began to guide her into this state of deeper hypnosis, well, I just said to her, you know, if the worrying part of your mind continues to turn away for a while as you're just relaxing here and now, then actually that's perfectly fine. Because I don't want you to concern yourself. That's the conscious part of your mind. And I'm not even talking to the conscious part of your mind. I'm talking to the subconscious part that is always listening. So if that part of your brain keeps churning away out of pure habit, that's fine. And there's no need to try to control the thoughts, because that's one of the things we continually do. We focus on what we don't want, and we drive that anxiety. It's like me telling you not to think of a pink elephant. The first thing you think about is a pink elephant. So we can just let the words wash over us, knowing that there is always that deeper part of us that's listening. Then I asked the woman to simply listen for any of the internal words that she might be saying to herself. I said, listen to the tone of voice that you use inside your mind. When the worrying party brain gets going, now, perhaps it's a bit fast and it might sound a bit uncomfortable. Now, she just nodded her head to show me she understood exactly what I meant. So I just asked her to simply slow it down a bit and then to literally listen to the kinds of worries that she said to herself. What if this happens, or what if that happens? But then to say the same kinds of things to herself, but in a softer, slower voice. So that you could worry in a voice that sounds like a cartoon character, maybe like Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh, or maybe Baloo the bear from Jungle Book, or Marge Simpson. And yes, it sounds a little bit funny, but the silliness then can open the door to seeing some of the old worries in a whole new light, as you just start to relax in comfort and hear this softer, slower, internal voice beginning to calm those thoughts down as they slowly begin to drift further and further away. Into a really curious kind of way, just to let go deeper inside. And so you just take another slow, deep breath. You might even hear that sound of a sigh in your own voice. The sound of a sigh that you might give at the end of a long, long day. And you see as that woman just sat there breathing deeply. She breathed in and she breathed out. And I just started to talk to her about how actually we all know how to relax easily and naturally, because at nighttime, those muscles know how to smooth out and soften. The muscles of the jaw loosening, the forehead smoothing out, the shoulders sinking that little bit, that comfortable heaviness that we get that just lets the body become comfortably still, so that you can then become even more able to float deeper and deeper into those dreams to come. And so I began to tell that woman a story that I'd heard about a young man in a far-off land who'd begun to worry day and night and day for reasons even he didn't understand. It just seemed that his life had gotten way too much for him. He wasn't eating properly, he wasn't sleeping properly, skipping meals, not drinking enough water, not taking care of his physical body. And then he started making mistakes in his job as a tailor. And of course, next thing he knew, his customers were complaining about the drop in his standards. And pretty soon his boss was even threatening to fire him, which only made him worry even more. Now, in desperation, his family and friends, who'd just tried over and over to reassure him and calm him down, well, they sought help for him from this wise old man in a forest, a man a lot of people had turned to for counsel and insight when they'd become lost in their lives. And so, of course, the old man agreed to counsel him, and the young man agreed to go and visit. And as he just walked deeper and deeper into the woods, he failed to see all the beauty that was around him, the bluebells swaying in the breeze, the trees reaching their branches up to the sky, because he was just so lost in worrying what could happen if the old man couldn't actually help him. But you see, all the while the young man walked and worried, the forest peacefully continued being a forest. The woodland creatures just ambled along, the birds stretched their branches up to the sky. And those beautiful bluebells just swayed in the breeze. Now, finally, he arrived in a clearing in the center of the forest and was greeted by this strange-looking little old man wearing this old brown cloak when he knocked on the door of this little hut. And the old man greeted him really strangely, of course, and he said, well, I know why you're here and you know why you're here. But what you don't know is that you've been carrying these 3 heavy rocks for many months now. So he pointed to this heavy-looking backpack just lying on the ground, and he said, here, carry these 3 solid rocks till you start to feel the weight of the rocks in your mind. And the young fella peeked inside the backpack, and sure enough, there were these 3 large rocks inside. Now, he was a little bit curious, but obediently he picked up the backpack and threw it on his shoulders, as the old man had asked him to do. "Now we walk," said the old man. And walk they did. They walked over the hills and down the valleys and across those fields till the weight of the backpack just started to weigh him down so much he could barely go on. "Now stop and sit," said the old man. And he offered the young man some fresh nuts and berries that he collected from the forest, and he said, "The first rock you've been carrying is the rock of the body. Too much low-quality food. Be caffeine, sugar, alcohol, too many starches and carbs, too much processed food, not eating properly and skipping meals." He said, "You need to learn to eat small amounts regularly. Eat fruit, vegetables, fiber, and protein to keep your energy levels stable. You need to exercise regularly. It doesn't have to be hard. It's about movement. The body is a huge beaker of chemicals that needs to be stirred. Because he said, the body is the foundation." Just like this. And he tapped the young man on the forehead, and instantly the young man saw this image of himself living a different life, eating a balanced, healthy diet, no more skipping meals, fresh, nutritious food, protein with every meal to stabilize his blood sugar, to stabilize his moods, and to keep his blood sugar stable. He saw himself exercising and just stretching his body to give it the time and space to unwind and open up to new possibilities by taking care of that foundation for good mental health, which of course is the body. And when he opened his eyes, the old man was back on his feet, striding off into the distance. And although the backpack felt a little less heavy, he had to sprint to catch up, and eventually it started to weigh him down again. So they stopped a second time by this beautiful babbling brook, and they just refreshed themselves with that cool, clean water. While the old man told the young man, "The second rock you've been carrying is the rock of emotions. Now, to calm yourself down, just breathe like this. Breathe in for the count of 3 and out for the count of 5, like a deep sigh. In for 3 and out for 5, and just breathe like this for several minutes and just find your own rhythm. Whenever you want to feel calmer, the breath, connecting to the vagus nerve, the parasympathetic nervous system, calming those thoughts down, calming that mind and body down. So breathe in for 3 and out for 5, like a deep sigh whenever you want to feel calmer. And as the young man just gazed at the brook and listened to the sound of the water, he just watched that sunlight glistening and the currents flowing before him as he simply breathed in for the count of 3 and out for the count of 5. And he felt his body just responding by calming right down. Now, feeling lighter still, he straightened up and he looked around, and he noticed that the old man was approaching him with several small sticks in his hand. The old man held up one of the sticks over the water and he pointed to it and he said, "Final rock is the rock of the mind." He said, "You see, a worry is out here. It's not even a part of you. And sometimes those worries will flow down the stream of consciousness." And as he said that, he dropped the stick into the brook, and they both watched it float down past them and off and out of sight. It's flowing downstream. And you cannot stop worries flowing downstream, but you don't need to jump into the stream after them. So here, you try it. The young man took a stick from the old man's hand and he dropped it into the brook, and they both watched it floating off some distance away from him as he just began to get this real sense of how a worry really can float way, way away. And you know what? After that experience, the rock of the body, fueling the body with good nutrition, getting enough sleep and water and movement, the rock of emotions, Just breathing in for 3 and out for 5. The rock of the body. Watching our thoughts from a distance and becoming the observer of the thoughts, not the thoughts themselves. After doing and learning and knowing and feeling these changes, he suddenly realized that his backpack was empty and he felt physically free and unburdened. But more importantly, he felt mentally free to really be present with the experience of being in the forest with a wise old man. And so a few weeks later, we thanked the old man by making him this beautifully tailored cloak that he had lovingly and attentively made. Now that he was free just to live his life as he ate and rested properly. As he remembered to breathe in for the count of 3 and out for the count of 5, like a deep sigh. And as he watched his thoughts from a distance, knowing that they were just part of the stream of consciousness, thoughts come, thoughts go, but we don't have to give attention to them. We can just watch them go by. And interestingly enough, when the woman came to see me the following week, she couldn't even remember what we talked about. She just said something had changed inside. And so in a moment, I'm going to count from 1 to 5. And as I do, you'll be able to come back to the room feeling calmer and knowing that you are not your thoughts. You are more than that. You are the thinker behind the thoughts. And you are connected to the soul energy of the planet. For we are all one. And nothing can hurt us. So 1, becoming more aware of any outside noises in the background. 2, becoming more aware of the chair, pillow, or whatever it is that's supporting your body. 3, getting a really clear image in your mind of that intention you set for yourself at the start of this workshop to feel good, to let other people's issues bounce off like water off a duck's back, to be the master of your own ship and choose what you put your energy to and what you become the observer of and say, aha, how interesting. Thank you for sharing as those thoughts rise and fall. So 4, the energy coming back into your arms and legs as you come closer to the surface, more aware, more awake. And 5, just coming back to the room whenever you're ready. How are we feeling? So we didn't get a chance to do anything on the overwhelm yet, but I just thought one thing at a time, or you will have you all asleep or something.
Oh, that was wonderful. Thank you.
Excellent.
Mm.
Feeling calmer now.
Mm.
Perfect.
Lovely.
Alicia, how are you? How are you feeling, Alicia? Did you fall asleep?
Very relaxed.
Excellent. Perfect. So it's now 12:37. So we've been here for 2.5 hours. Do you want to do one more on overwhelm? Have you got time for that?
If you have, thank you.
Yeah, I've got Alicia at 1, isn't it, Alicia? Is it at 1 or 1:30? We've got you.
I think it's 1:30.
I think yeah, that might be a lunch break for us both. Okay, so we're just going to do one more little session as well.
Thank you.
What I'm going to do, once I get this onto YouTube, I'm going to find out where we are at, where we started the EFT, where we started the stuff on general anxiety and where we start on overwhelm, and I'll write down the numbers so that you can just go directly to that if you need it, or if you want to play it to somebody else, and it might just be just what you need to take the edge off. Perfect.
Thank you.
So grab a glass of water before we start, and I'll have some more as well because I talk nonstop. And I particularly thought the doing some stuff on overwhelm, Alicia, is going to be really good for you, but also be really good for Martine's daughter and husband at the moment. So it's just going to help compartmentalize. That's really what we want to do. So again, time to take yourself back into your own happy space again. Now, the beauty about hypnosis is that every time we do it, we get better at it, and we can go deeper as well. So although you may be playing this for somebody else, it may just mean that I was going to say I'll skip ahead and just do a really quick induction, but we'll just take it easy. We'll get through, and that way it'll be a full session in itself as well. So thank you, beautiful girls, and everybody else out there in La La Land. Take a breath and relax. Lie down if you want to. And I'd recommend that we probably put these on at bedtime when we're going to bed, because that way it can keep working in the background. Even as you're sleeping, the subconscious is always listening. So begin to focus your attention on your eyelids. And as you breathe, just extend the outer breath. Feel yourself back in your body, just relaxing right down. And then begin to focus again on those eyelids, so that you start to let those eyelids relax so much that they just won't work. So they're just so comfortable they couldn't be bothered to work. And then when you know you've done that, just give them a little test to make sure of that. Then stop testing, just go deeper. And you can take that same level of comfort that's in your eyes, take it all the way down and across your body. Like a beautiful wave now flowing from the top of your head down to the tips of those toes once again. Excellent. Now every breath takes you deeper, every thought takes you deeper, and every sound takes you deeper. Knowing that you're safe and secure, and that all is well. So one more time, just focus on your eyelids, remembering that it's all self-hypnosis. You can let yourself go as deep or as shallow, as wide or as narrow as you want into this trance state. A natural state we're in and out of every day, the state we're in when we're driving down the highway, the state we live in those early years. And really let those eyelids relax even more so. And then when you know you've done that, just give them a little test to make sure you really have relaxed them down. Then stop testing, just go deeper, taking that level of comfort all the way down through the body again, like a beautiful wave flowing from the top of your head to the tips of those toes. Awesome. So now we've got that beautiful level of comfort washing through the body. Know that as the body relaxes, the mind generally follows. And so what I'd like you to do now is I'm going to count from 1 to 5. And what I'd like you to do is just let your mind relax right down. So by the time I say the number 5, it could be as though you want to go maybe 10 times deeper. So want that, and you can have that. So 1, just drifting deeper and deeper down now. 2, as if drifting down through an inner world. 3, that relaxation, just going deeper and deeper, knowing you're safe and secure. 4, the deeper you go, the better you feel. And the better you feel, the deeper you go. And 5, as I just want to go 10 times deeper now. From the top of your head down to the tips of those toes. Now, as I've mentioned, we always do better with practice. So one more time, I'm going to count from 1 to 5, and this time I'd like you to double that relaxation. Want that, you can have that. So 1, just going deeper and deeper. 2, as if just drifting down through the inner world, safe and secure, calm and relaxed. 3, your relaxation is now doubling more and more with every breath you take, with every thought you think, with every sound that you hear, with every word I say. 4, the deeper you go, the better you feel. And the better you feel, the deeper you let yourself go. And 5, as though you just want to double that relaxation now from the top of your head to the tips of those toes. And so before you go even more deeply relaxed, we're just going to talk about overwhelm for a moment. Because as we've worked on in our workshop, feeling that level of overwhelm is another level up. And that can be a part of long-term stress, can be a part of generalized anxiety. It can be a part of panic attacks, and it can certainly be a part of post-traumatic stress disorder. And so overwhelm is when we reach the top of that expansion level of what we can take. We crash and burn afterwards. Now, it is a busy world, certainly. So easy to feel overwhelmed. And when you feel like this, you've got a sense of that rising panic feeling, but a sense of there's just too much stuff that's got to be done. Too much stuff that's out of our control. Life can be too much for us. And when you're feeling overwhelmed, you've got this sense of rising panic, as I said. And being overwhelmed can really quickly lead to total exhaustion. And of course, then there's the guilt because we don't feel like we've got everything done that we'd have to do. And so it's one thing to be stretched in life because we all need challenges, goals. We can get a lot of satisfaction from knowing that we work to our best ability, our full capacity, enjoying our life because of it. But it's a totally different thing to feel really stressed day in and day out rather than stretched. And we can become overwhelmed and there's just too many demands on our time and our energy and the things we've got to process in our brain, too many things that we can't say no to, and too many confrontations that never seem to let up. Now, might I say it's not just you either, but in our modern world, we're having increasing numbers of even little children with anxiety and overwhelm. Our modern life as a whole is increasingly overwhelming. It's one of the reasons I don't watch television too often. I don't watch the news. The only things we watch in our house are children's cartoons with the 7-year-old or the 6-year-old. But we can take on stuff that's not even ours. And this just generates the feeling that life's too demanding, too stressful. And if we're working, we've got emails, text messages, we've got phone calls. We've got, some of us have got partners and parents and kids, sisters and brothers, colleagues. It can feel like we're going crazy sometimes trying to keep up with everything. Social media that we talked about. We've all got more and more things to juggle. And we did used to think that having computers and smartphones was going to lessen our load and make our life easier. But it's done absolutely the opposite. We're now accessible by so many other people. And so we've got all these things we have to do and have to learn how to use. More and more things. And more pressure, more and more expectations put on our shoulders. So you see, to negotiate life, we need what we want to call a work-life balance. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean going to work if you're not working, but we need a balance. And that means we need to be able to plan and cope and defer things till later, which means prioritizing. And we also need that ability to be able to compartmentalize, and that's a skill that's going to diminish the feeling of being overwhelmed. Now, when you compartmentalize your time, you also allocate not just your time and resources, but you're trying to control not just what you do, but what you think about. That's so important. So when it's time for you to rest or have some fun, you can just shut out all those other thoughts of the things that you feel like you've got to do, the commitments, the stresses in your surroundings. And it's a simple and effective method. So that way you can stop feeling so overwhelmed when you know what to leave out, what to leave till later, and what to get other people to help you with or to do for you. Now, in business school, they call it the 3 Ds: dump, defer, and delegate. Now, that's not always easy either, because sometimes we have to just cut things into small chunks, do one thing at a time, tidy one drawer at a time. And that way we break it down to manageable little chunks so that we can tick off a box and feel like we're getting somewhere. And you can just stop feeling so overwhelmed when you abandon perfectionism. And just set yourself some reasonable standards that allow you to know when good really is just good enough to leave it alone. You can stop feeling overwhelmed when you set some protective boundaries around your time and around what you're willing to put up with, and just insist that it's respected. Because somebody once said the formula to failure is just to try to please everyone. And what I want to do today is to help you start feeling more relaxed and back in control of your own life and much more able to manage. Now, it's interesting to note, through a recent course that I did on psychoimmunology, one of the best ways to deal with dis-ease in the mind-body system is to physically relax the body. Because as the body relaxes, the mind generally follows. So you know that feeling just before you're about to go to sleep. That little moment where you just notice you begin to relax, allowing the mind just to clear away any of the thoughts from the day. That time when you just begin to rest and recuperate, allowing the body just to take some time out to rest and repair. Such a comfortable moment. And as you just begin to relax even more deeply now, just noticing that with each and every in-breath and every breath out, that you could just notice how everything can start to just slow down. Slowing each part of you, beginning to just slow down and relax so much more deeply now. And then noticing how the shoulders can become so comfortably relaxed. Those arms and those feet just gently resting, the stomach digesting that calming relaxation, and just allowing it to flow from within, reaching every single cell in your body. And maybe you could also imagine that relaxation spreading to those parts of the body, telling them now to take whatever time they need to learn how it feels to relax even more and to heal on every level, knowing that the body's always eavesdropping on our thoughts, our emotions, our feelings. So just allowing that mind to really start to let go of the thought of trying to hold on. Because there's just no need to do anything at all. That mind can just gently drift anywhere it wants to, letting go of all those sensations, those thoughts, those images, and just enjoying that wonderful feeling, just being deeply relaxed and calm. The mind beginning to drift like a bubble on a warm breeze, just dancing through the air, with the light just shining off the surface, floating effortlessly and just beginning to make its journey. And perhaps it's just drifting over heads of flowers dancing on a breeze. with their intoxicating scents just floating on that warm breeze. And perhaps gently brushing their soft petals and how the pollen can just escape from the center of the flowers and it's just drifting in the air. Noticing what colors those flowers are. And noticing now how the colors can just change with the changing light. How the perfume pollen can drift like a haze of color. Or maybe you're just drifting over a beautiful stream tinged by the colors of the sky. And it might be a beautiful, vivid blue, or maybe fluffy clouds just floating along. The calming sounds of the water now. Just bubbling along that bit of the stream, meandering on its own little journey, or maybe just drifting to a wonderful beach somewhere with that beautiful crystal white snow glistening in the sunshine. Notice how the feel of the warmth of the sun can just begin to warm that skin, sinking in deeper and deeper through those pores and warming you now from the outside in, allowing you to feel so relaxed and comfortable. The sound of the waves gently lapping on the shore, just tipped with the white foam creating shapes and patterns in the sand. The sound of the trees rustling in a warm breeze. As you just relax a few more moments now and just start to rest on those sands of time. And that mind can choose wherever it wants to be, just like it does during a dream, taking you to new places, maybe places you've visited before, somewhere you'd like to go. But just recently, you might have visited somebody, somewhere rather. Or maybe a long time ago, you might have been on a journey. But you can go wherever you want to be, into a safe, magical, mystical place. So just traveling there now in a beautiful bubble and feeling the air against your skin and simply coming to rest in this wonderful, safe place, which is your safe sanctuary where no one else can enter unless you choose to allow them in. What is it about that place that allows you to feel so deeply relaxed and comfortable? Is it the colors or the shapes, maybe the sounds that surround you, or the feel of the ground beneath you, the aromas in the air? And just really breathing in that calming relaxation. And as you continue to relax even more deeply, you can now notice how each and every part of your body is resting so easily and naturally. And how this relaxation itself isn't the least bit overwhelming for that unconscious mind or that body, because you know exactly how it works. As each and every breath breathes in a further deepening level of calmness within. That's it. And yes, that mind could be like a bit of a spinning top, just whirling around, spinning from left to right or right to left. And left, right on its own, every spinning top just begins to naturally slow down and eventually stop. To rest calmly. So getting an image of that spinning top in your own mind now and noticing its size, aware of its color, and how as that top furiously spins, you could just notice how the colors can start to change with the light and the speed. And as the top begins to slow down, bit by bit, you can notice that. Second by second, you can feel even more relaxed, slowing down even more and feeling so relaxed and so calm. And by the time it stopped, you could notice how absolutely relaxed you've become. You don't have to switch off just yet, because your mind could still be busy to some extent simply through sheer force of habit, just for a little while. And so I'd like you just to imagine a beautiful seascape. That's it, with particles of sand just glistening in that sunlight, the waves moving to shore like little white horses from out at sea, surrounded by all these beautiful different rocks and caves. Notice their structure, their size, and their texture, and that wonderful sky above. There might be a beautiful blue sky, Maybe it's tinged with those wispy white clouds and the feel of the air against your skin and how you can even taste that salty air as the waves just arrive on the shore, and how the spray can drift in the sunlight, just creating a wonderful rainbow of colors if you catch it just the right way. And this place, so much of it now, is just so calm and so serene and relaxed. Such a relaxing place to be. And then getting a sense of being able to gently now just drift up and above yourself, out above your life, like an out-of-body experience. So I'm going to come from 1 to 3, and just like that calming bubble, you can drift up on 1, 2, and 3, just gently floating now on that beautiful warm air above you, and just looking down on the different strands of your own life now. All the different people, the activities, the jobs, the chores, all the things that are connected with your life. But really seeing it now from this great calm distance. Now just noticing all the colors of those strands that just make up the patchwork of your life. And noticing that really clearly now. Some strands are more important than others. It's just a wonderful realization now. It's pretty obvious to you, but just noticing that if you just leave some of the other strands alone, you can become aware of how this actually helps situations sometimes. If you just let other people find ways to manage their own issues and let go of trying to help others and being an enabler or a fix-it person, but letting other people deal with the consequences of their own actions and letting them having to now find their own solutions and problem solve by saying, I don't know, what do you think you should do? Seeing all these different things. And then on the count of 3, just drifting back down to that relaxing seascape once again with this greater level of awareness on 1, 2, and 3. Excellent. Now, I want you just to begin to picture in your mind now this filing cabinet. And maybe it could be filed alphabetically, or it might be filed by colors. But right now, beginning to file away all of that stuff that you need to do. And just putting it away in that mind filing cabinet until such a time as you need to take it out of that compartment. And you can relax because everything's safe in its own compartment. And that unconscious mind's going to be filing and compartmentalizing for you now, even when you're not consciously aware of this. Allowing you to be fully present so much more of the time, allowing you just to feel calmer and more in control about all different kinds of different things in your life. So now just getting that picture of the bubble before you, and within that bubble, you can allow a picture to begin to form. The colors are swirling, and it just forms this picture of times in your future now. A time in the future that's full of better times, where you're instinctively prioritizing, getting clear about what's important and what's not, knowing what not to do more of the time, being protective of your own needs, relaxing and enjoying your life so much more, being led by joy to bring that flow of joy back into your heart, into your arteries, into your blood, into your bone marrow. Because on a vibrational frequency level, we are reaching for love or above, which has a magical quality of healing body, mind, and soul. Every emotion has a frequency. And as we reach up, we let go of the past. We let go of other people's issues so that they bounce off like water off a duck's back. We tune into what brings us joy. We rise up, we heal, and we move to experience new and better times ahead. So just getting a sense now on the count of 3 of drifting into that better future, what it's like to wake up feeling joyous, feeling happy, feeling healthy and energized on 1, 2, and 3. noticing the differences in you and how this changes everything around you, how people treat you differently because you treat yourself differently, and just how much more relaxed you are about life. Using that instinct, trusting your gut feeling, reaching for a higher emotional feeling, trusting yourself so much more effectively, prioritizing, knowing what not to do more of the time, and then really experiencing these better times. Remembering that you are good enough on every level. You deserve peace. You deserve happiness. You deserve health. You deserve joy. You deserve to be here, because you are everything you've come here to be in this lifetime. And so you can listen to this recording at any time you like in the future. It's just going to magnify the power of the work we've done over this little workshop, because repetition will take these messages deeper into the right parts of the brain. And so you'll be able to come back as they come from 1 to 5, bringing with you these new learnings so that you start to naturally and instinctively make these changes in who you are and who you want to be, to create a better life, a life that's worth living, a life that is worth remembering as we get further down the track, incidentally. So 1, becoming more aware now of any outside noises in the background. 2, becoming more aware of the feeling of whatever it is that's supporting your body as you start to come closer to the surface, now more aware, more awake. And 5, slowly opening those eyes, coming all the way back to the room whenever you're ready. Feeling the physical body, noticing things you can feel, see, hear, smell, touch, taste. Back into this body that houses this soul. So how are we feeling, beautiful girls? Please feel free to share your experiences here with us today. So you might need to unmute. How are you feeling?
Magnificent.
I love that.
Oh, thank you so incredibly much.
You are so welcome.
My goodness. There's so much of it, Carol, just put so much into perspective. And
Awesome. Awesome.
it was,
I threw a lot of stuff in there that wasn't probably stuff I would have normally talked about, but I just thought everything's an opportunity to give you insights. Insights shift our perspectives.
Wow. Thank you.
You're so welcome. Alicia, how are you feeling?
Yeah, very relaxed and calm, and just relaxed.
Excellent. So on a scale of 0 to 10, where are you ladies now?
Unstoppable.
Perfect. That's what I want to hear. Alicia, where are you now?
Probably a 2.
That's
so
great.
that's good.
That's good for you. That's awesome. And so now we've got these recordings, you'll be able to use them anytime in the future. And yes, you can use them for your husband, for your daughter. Alicia, you could even probably just use these recordings for your sister, your mother, and your father if they would listen to them. Probably we don't want them to hear the first parts of when we talked about them. But anyway, I might, if I can manage it, I might even cut this video in half. So that there's the talking stuff and then there's the doing stuff. I'll see if I can manage that. I think last time I edited something, I had to do it on Canva because I don't really know what I'm doing with this stuff, but I'm learning, I can tell you. I'll just jump on YouTube and ask, how do I cut a video in half? And that way it'll make it a bit more manageable. Excellent. Now, I did mention something in there that I didn't get a chance to touch on today. And so I've now just pulled it up and it's in your manual. And so you will be able to just have a quick look at this later on. I mentioned every emotion has a frequency. And a lot of you have heard about that, but you don't really understand it. But there was a man named Dr. David Hawkins, and he was a scientist, but he was also into kinesiology. And what they did was they muscle tested over 2,000 people, and they came up with consistent readings of frequencies of different emotions. So if you look over on this big omega one, shame is 20, guilt is 30, apathy 50, grief 75, fear 100, desire 125, anger 150, pride 175, courage 200, neutral is 250, willingness 300, acceptance 350, reason is 400, love is 500, joy is 540, gratitude's up there with joy, by the way, on about 540, peace 600, enlightenment 700 and above. Now, if we understand that, disease is down, like cancer's down at about 32. So we're going to reach for a higher emotion. And Alicia, might I just say that some people in your family are reaching for anger because it's a higher emotion than grief. Okay? So on some level, that anger is a better place to be for them. And that's why sometimes I encourage people to rise up and speak your truth, because I want to get your emotions up to a higher vibration. Because if we can get up to anger, then it's a little bit more of a jump to pride and courage, and then neutral, and we can sort of start climbing back up. And in his book, Power versus Force, that I read probably 20 years ago, he says that if we can consistently hold ourselves at the vibration of love or above, being at that vibration, we can have an impact on up to 750,000 people just by being in their energy field, by being near them. Now, I mentioned in my pain workshop last week, I mentioned that Dr. Deepak Chopra put in one of his books many years ago how they did an experiment, and they got 30 people doing transcendental meditation, and they took them to the highest crime rate area in the underground train stations in New York, and they got them to meditate for 1 week, and they just did, shift work. So they had different people come in as others were leaving. They kept it consistent. And what they found was the crime rate of the city dropped by 30%. Now, they've repeated that for the last 30 years. And every time they do it, they get the same result. So it's not a coincidence. It means that our level of emotion has an impact on our vibrations, and that has an impact on our physical bodies. And when we talk about, and it's not in this, but it's in my Reiki manuals, the water stuff, if you think about the water molecules and Masaru Emoto's experiments where they would say words, they would prayer at the water and then put it under a microscope as the crystals were freezing. The horrible ones would be from Fujiwara Dam with pollution, but they would also be from people saying, I hate you. And when they would just pray, or they would say, I love you, or they would sing a beautiful song or play beautiful music, the crystals would form into beautiful crystals. And so what we learn from that is that our bodies are 70 to 90% water based on our ages. And that means every time we say a bad word or think a bad thought, we're affecting the people that we're directing it to, but we're affecting ourselves. So it truly is about treating others the way we want to be treated. The only message every spiritual leader on the planet's ever said is the one we haven't got yet. But it's also about treating ourselves the way we would treat somebody we loved. So we start making those little shifts, sending good vibes, and just saying, yeah, thanks for sharing, without taking it on board, without taking it personally. And by doing that, we can start to rise up above the traumas of our daily life. And I told Alicia, sometimes I have this dream and I'm walking down this dark tunnel. It's a silhouette, and the tunnel's all these waves whipping around, but none of them touch me. I just keep walking. And, you know, somebody once said to me, oh, gosh, you're a Reiki master. You must never get angry. And I had a chuckle to myself. I said, no, I'm a human being as well. That's why I'm in this human body. I get really angry sometimes, but I recover quicker. And that's the key. It's recovering back and coming back to my center pretty damn fast, and always looking at how can this serve me. And that way it can't hurt me. So I have had mystical experiences where I've been in the light too, but that's another story. And when I was in that light, what I knew was we are not these bodies. We are all connected energetically. We're all part of the one light that shines through all of us, that Reiki light, incidentally. And so I hope you've all enjoyed our workshop today. So what else have I got here? There's that levels of consciousness there again with a little bit more depth. So I hope you'll enjoy that when you have a chance to look. There's the meridians. You don't need to know this stuff, but it is really all about just giving you some tools that you can use at your own time when you feel ready to face those or to deal with them, so that turns into this happy girl over here, because that's who we all are in our hearts, aren't we? And so thank you so much. It's now 1:15. It's gone a little bit longer than I expected, but I just figure we're just going to shovel as much stuff as we possibly can so we can help more people. So thank you both. I'm just so grateful that you came along today. And I really hope that you can take from this what you need and help as many people as you can on the journey. And I think next week I'm not going to be running a workshop because, as I said, the night before I'll be here at work till probably 10 o'clock at night with Johannes. Then I'll have to go home and get Evie sorted, and I'm not going to get enough sleep to be able to jump up the next day and do another workshop. I think I might even have a bit of a morning off on next Friday. So have a lovely time, and I will see you all again sometime. In your manuals, I think I've said there's a 10% discount if somebody wants to make an appointment or whatever, but just reach out if you want to talk to me. Just message me in Facebook and I'm happy to answer any questions. We are all in this together, as the song goes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Transformative.
I love this work. Excellent. I love that. Would you mind giving me a little reference? Maybe put something up maybe on Facebook or something like that on my business thing, and just say that would be awesome. I just thought of that. Because if we can put out good vibes from anything we do, then other people might actually take the time to watch it, and that's really what we want.
Absolutely.
Excellent. So Alicia, I will see you in about 40 minutes or so. I'm going to go grab some food, and I'll see you back in my little hot little office here. And Martina, it's been so nice to get to know you.
Oh, what a blessing to be here with you. Thank you, Carol. That's
You are so welcome.
Incredible work. I shall see you again, most definitely. Thank
Excellent. You. We're all connected. Just remember that.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Excellent.
Thanks, Alicia.
Bye-bye. Excellent.
Bye.